Got me pondering a question, gentlemen and ladies. Welcome into TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio Go Hour, presented by The Warehouse at CC Creations. Maroon never looks so good with Maroon You. He's Olin Buchanan. I am David Nuño. Here's my question, OB, that we can kind of start off the show.
Ask.
Who's a new player? And by new player, it doesn't mean they're like necessarily new to Texas A&M, but they might be. Could be a transfer, could be a freshman, could be somebody who's been waiting to start. A new player who's going to be a household name by the end of the season. The name, kind of a name that we like, I don't know, Anaya Smith, Bryce Foster, Damani Rich, like a name that we, oh yeah, that's one of our guys that plays a lot. Who's a new name that you think will be that?
Well, I think the probably the odds are with Tony Grimes.
Okay.
But I will say after last week, the amount of people commenting about Javon Thomas got my attention.
Yeah, Javon Thomas,
people really talking about him. So maybe, Javon Thomas. So maybe it'd be him. But I think if you put a tote board up, I think the odds would favor Tony Grimes.
Okay. I will say, I think Josh Zaberry may be one of those guys, but that's not the first name I was thinking about.
Okay.
All right, because I'm really impressed with Josh Zaberry. The first name, it's probably not fair to say this because he's a 5-star and the best running back in the class. But I think Ruben Owens will go from, I think, to, oh, he is.
Okay.
I think he'll go from that. Like, he's a name that comes up. Here's another name that I think is, until you see it on Saturdays, you can't officially say it, but from reports, from Billy, what we see at practice, Chase Basantis. At some point, might be a starter.
He could be if either the tackles struggle, and both did last year for different reasons, and both have apparently done what needed to be done to get better. And I'm having that. It's early in the morning. It's Trey Zune in his case, just getting healthy and then working on things, and then in Ruben Fothery's case to lose about 10 pounds, but. If either one of those guys struggle, I could see them moving in Chase Basantis, much the way they moved in Cam Dewberry last year and got better.
Some of my thinking behind this is it'll go from theory to fact, right? So, like, Noah Thomas, he's already kind of in that discussion, but he hasn't done it.
Right.
He will probably move into that, but I think we talk about him enough that he's probably not one in consideration for this because I think people are already expecting that. And I think people are expecting Ruben Owens as well, but a little hesitation because he's a freshman, a little hesitation because there's a couple other guys in the backfield that expect to play a lot as well. But I think he will be one of those names where like, oh, wait till next year. Oh, we're seeing it now. Not even waiting. I'm not even next year Nuño right now. I'm saying right now Nuño.
Next game, Nuño.
This quarter Nuño. This play Nuño.
That's right. I like that attitude. Make it happen now.
So who are some names that you think will be household names? And if you listen to the show daily, they're all household names. But I'm talking like maybe on a more national scale. Like,
how about J.D. Davis?
Let's go.
You know, a guy with some experience. Not at the SEC level, of course, but just playing linebacker and coming in at a position of need.
Yep.
Maybe it'll be him. The good news is we just brought about 5 guys that are legitimate candidates to be that guy. So maybe they'll have more than one.
And I wonder, from some of the names we're throwing out there, who's a legitimate star? Because it can be a freshman. It can be a freshman on the offensive line. Doesn't have to be. All day. All day may be the guy, right? Like,
yeah, I've saw the highlights of that guy with making a one-handed catch way downfield, turning his body.
For instance, last year.
What's his name again?
Not
just
Walker.
All day, yeah.
Ja'Day Walker. For instance, Moose last year went from, in theory, like, I think he could be good, to like, wow, look at. That's kind of what I'm talking about. A guy that, all right, we've talked about his potential long enough. Now we're seeing it in real time. And there's a lot of candidates. For instance, I would say 2 years ago, Bryce Foster and Ruben Fothery fell into that equation. Yes, freshmen, but we knew they were going to be good. Bryce was thrusted into the starting lineup real quick because there were injuries, and he was that good. Mm-hmm. And then Ruben Fothery You know, I think it was the Arkansas game. I think third, fourth game into the season, he got his first start, and he made a difference.
The line got better when he played.
It did.
No doubt about it.
So there's a lot of candidates. I think Reuben Owens is going to be that guy in the backfield.
The Pearl of the Prairie. You think?
I don't know what that means.
El Campo was called the Pearl of the Prairie.
You know so much.
Well, I wrote a column about Reuben when he signed, and I did some research on El Campo, and it was called the Pearl of the Prairie because there was like a train station, and you could see a light. Almost think of a lighthouse on land.
Yeah.
From miles away, so you knew how you were getting closer or the way to El Campo by following the light. It was like following the star to get to the manger and find, Jesus.
Jesus. Team Jesus here.
And Jesus, what a running back.
Jesus. It's like when you
Reuben Owens could be.
It's like when you're going to Dallas and you see the green thing from far away.
Right.
What is the green thing called? The green
that green building?
The green building.
Yeah.
It's got a name. I'm sure Dallas people are mad at us.
It's called the green building.
And what is it in Houston that people recognize from far away? Is there anything?
Smog.
I think Dallas has smog too. Okay. For the record. Or like Galveston. What is it? The bridge, right?
The causeway?
The causeway. There you go. The causeway. This segment it had a focus and it went here.
I'm sorry, Houston.
Sorry. Yeah, they're coming after you. See, I'm team everybody, except
when I was a kid growing up in Dallas, it was always the is it Mobile building? I can't even remember the name of but they had the big the Pegasus, the red horse on top of a building, and you would see that from a long way away.
Well, we know what it is here in College Station.
Yeah, it's the
water tower.
Well, the
water tower from far away,
or
Kyle Field?
I guess it's Bryan, where they have the huge building is it the Don Adams building?
Okay,
you can see that from anywhere. Kennedy Cavan's giving me this look of complete confusion over there.
I
guess we're going early to the News and Social Center. Hi, Kennedy Cavan.
What are y'all doing? Those decisions.
What?
What you realize or notice
but like when
from
you're
a town or something.
Because I'm saying you can see from a long way away the kind of player that Reuben Owens could be.
And he called it the Pearl of the Prairie.
And he's going to be called the Pearl. Like Earl Campbell was called the Tyler Rose. They may be calling Reuben Owens the Pearl of the Prairie.
And Cavan, then he explained what that meant.
Prairie currently?
Okay, you weren't listening to the first 90 seconds of the show, were you?
Nor.
Okay. So
there's Rock Prairie. So it must be.
Basically, the Pearl of the Prairie, it's like you can see it from far away in El Campo. And then we went on a tangent like Dallas, you got the green thing.
You can see El Campo.
In Houston, you got the smog.
Yeah.
And then
that was wrong.
Yeah. And then in College Station, it's the water tower. And
no.
What? From far away, you're in College Station when you see the
bell
water
tower.
The bell tower.
Kyle Field. Like,
but
there's
you don't
so
see
many
Kyle Field.
other things than the water tower.
OB, you're not off with the
Are you talking about
Momentum
coming
Bank
from
building?
Momentum Bank, yeah.
From far away.
Definitely Kyle Field.
Somebody said
College
this show
Station.
has derailed.
Yeah.
And they
it
are
always
right.
does. It's Friday. What do you expect?
So true.
We should probably play that Friday song.
No, let's don't.
Let's do it. Let's do it twice. Anyway, so let's open that up to the text line, 979-693-1150. Who's a player that's going to be a household name when it's, I don't want to say all said and done, but just, during the season. By the way, one of the names that I brought up in that.
Reuben Owens be flying downfield like that flying red horse in the Dallas skyline.
Speaking of Reuben Owens, Anaya Smith, who's not Reuben Owens, tabbed to Earl Campbell's Tyler Rose Award preseason watch list. And I say to that, duh. He should be on there.
It's players from Texas, who's going to be the best college player from Texas gets the Tyler Rose Award, Earl Campbell Award. I could see Anaya Smith definitely being one of those guys.
What I am excited about Anais, well, let me phrase it like this. There's a little apprehension when a guy comes back from a major injury. Not apprehension, but like he's not 100% back until he's 100% back. And you don't know if it takes a year or two. But with the talent around Anais, he doesn't have to be that Anais. He probably will be that Anais, but he doesn't necessarily have to in week 1, 2, or 3. He can kind of ease into it because for a long time, he was the Swiss Army knife that you relied on so much. You've got other options as well.
Anai's just a damn good football player.
Isn't he?
Just a good football player. No matter where you put him, he would play good football. He'll tell you that his best position is on defense. I thought he told us, maybe I'm wrong on this, but I thought he told us in Nashville at SEC Media Days that he's 100%.
Yeah. But I think you could be 100% and not feel 100% with your own body. I'm not saying that he's going through that. I'm just saying in general that sometimes you gotta go through a couple games to really feel like, okay, I'm back. You don't want to favor it. You don't want to be a little worried to make certain moves. That's all I'm getting at. But
I'm glad he's on our team. Our team. Listen to me homering up. Yeah, heck yeah.
It's TexAgs.
It's TexAgs.
Okay.
I'm glad he's
totally
on
fine.
the Aggies.
Another household name that I mentioned, Chase Basantis, makes the preseason true freshman All-American team from 247.
Okay.
All reports are he looks good.
We'll embrace all recognition. I hope Chase turns out to be as good as he is billed to be, and there's no reason to think he will not.
So I've given 2 positive articles or columns or whatever, headlines, if you will, because sometimes I choose the ones that upset me. So happy David means happy show. So we're going to go happy commentary.
It is a happy day. It's a happy day.
We should hear the happy song,
We're
too.
only 15 days away from kickoff.
¿Es todo?
See?
Qué rico, no?
Caramba.
Let's go behind the glass and say hi to our friend Nick Savage. Nick, good morning, buddy.
Howdy, good morning, y'all.
Howdy, good morning to you.
I remember the light today. My player, I guess he's not technically a newcomer, so again, I'm bending the rules a little bit
You
here.
don't have to be a newcomer.
Okay, well, then mine's going to be Theo Millen-Ostrom. Yeah.
4.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, I mean, if you think about it, obviously he's had a year to kind of get used to playing, football here in the States. And he's got a year in the system. Unfortunately, with Donovan Green going down, he's probably going to get some opportunities. So I think we'll get a chance to see him, and I think he's going to be fun to watch this year.
How about this? Well, I agree with you. Jake Johnson. Because he was, or Max, but Jake in this instance, because I think he's going to benefit the most, and I hate saying benefit. Let me rephrase that. He was going to get a lot of looks with Donovan.
Yeah. Even more looks.
And, of course, you got Max right there who's done it for a while. But, somebody at the time. And Jaden Platt, if you read Billy's review, Jaden Platt's looking really, really good.
Okay. Again, the tight end position is you hate to lose Donovan Green.
What is tight? It is tight.
You hate to lose Donovan Green. But at least you have you feel good about what's still there.
I agree. Anything else, Nicholas?
No, sir.
Appreciate your commentary. Let's go to the news section there. And
what do you want me to say?
That's what I wanted you to say.
I want you to tell me what's the landmark that you see from far away in Houston.
NRG?
I know it used to be called Transco Tower.
Transco Tower, yeah.
I know my mom used to work in that building, but whatever it's called now, I mean, that's one that comes to mind. It just depends on where you are, but you can see NRG from pretty far away.
But I don't think stadiums
count.
I mean, they can count.
Well,
like, if you can see any
NRG,
stadium in a plane. I'm talking about.
But we're saying from far away. You don't see NRG until you're actually in Houston, inside the loop.
Okay. All right. I don't think you see it inside the loop.
Well, okay.
Unless you're down the street from it. Now that I think about it.
Yeah, now that I think about it.
That would be my answer, Transco Tower.
I'm sticking with Smog.
What do you
it would be the 2 Astros World Series banners.
Oh, okay.
Bling bling. We're definitely coming back with bling bling if we can find that. That's
I like
the
that.
clean version of that. You know that song Bling Bling?
No, but I like Nick's response.
No.
That was excellent.
100% bling bling next. Kennedy Cavan. Good morning.
Hey guys. Oh my gosh.
That was fun.
Okay. The energy is getting
Better.
to the aggressive side.
We're happy.
Happy. Somebody sent in an emoji. Or not an emoji. What do you call those
happy
things
day.
that like move?
A GIF?
Yeah.
GIF?
One of those. It was Kermit the Frog. I thought it was pretty cool.
Can we get some news on the show?
Not a lot of news. I do have a couple answers to your question though.
Okay.
The first one. Dalton Brooks. Trey and Shiner said Dalton Brooks.
Oh, yeah. I've been hearing some great things about him, too.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then
and it's a very deep position, though. But
he's one from LaGrange, is not?
I believe that is correct. Miss
ZZ
Kevin?
Top.
Nicely done.
Okay.
You
I
can't
don't know how to
the name.
pronounce
Yeah,
this
I knew
name.
it. I knew that was coming.
Yep, because you were looking at it too.
Can you just try?
Torian York.
Yeah.
And then we have in all caps, watch this kid shine, Dat 2.0.
Okay. I hope so.
Oh, if he's that 2.0.
Hot
You know,
take.
everything I've read about the kid, I've liked.
Oh, just
He seems like first of all, just a great person, but I'm not met him.
when in interviews, he's fantastic, and his game backs it up. Yeah, he's gonna be a favorite and a household name, which aren't always the same, right? But he's gonna be both. Anything else, Miss Kevin?
Somebody, Chad in Odessa, just said Connor Wegman will be a household name if he's not already. He kind of is.
I think he's a household name.
Well, we're
Loosely.
talking about him all
But
the time.
but
it's like we
but
have
elevate his status of household name.
to. So true.
Yeah. He gets a better room in the house.
He gets his own room.
Yeah.
There's no bunk beds in that room.
No, he might even get the master bedroom.
Of all of our intros, first segments, this is one of those that pretty memorable. Pretty memorable.
Yeah. We've been spraying hits all over the field. We're not just pulling it today. Since Nick brought up the Astros.
Yeah. Bling bling, everybody. Hey, by the way, Astros and Rangers didn't play yesterday. I'm sure you knew that.
I actually have a funny story about that.
About last night?
Yeah, I got a call from Rusty Burson, a great friend of mine.
Yeah, I like Rusty.
And he was say, hey, man, we need to hook up for lunch. I was glad you called because I'm sitting here watching the Rangers. I'm getting mad again. He said, it's a replay. I went, oh, no, I didn't. I'm getting upset for no reason.
Did it not say replay up top?
If it did, I didn't notice it. I just turned it on, though.
Okay.
I mean, I'd only been sitting there for a couple of minutes. And they're already listening. They're like, this team is chokers. And he said, yeah, that's a replay. I said, it was. Well, thanks for telling me now. I don't have to waste my night getting all upset.
That Congress should act that it should be a rule that says previously aired or something like that. I think they usually do, but not always.
I don't know. I really don't know if there was something up there that was, or if they had, said it beforehand. But I was glad I got that call to tell me, hey, yeah, don't waste your time.
I got a good news, bad news situation for you, Obi.
What is it?
Good news, I love Fargo's, which you do too. Bad news, not open tomorrow because they got some stuff to take care of. That's okay. The good news is they'll be open again on Tuesday.
Yeah, so if you can't get your rib tip fix on Saturday, you can go ahead and just wait a couple more days for Tuesday and you can get them.
Yeah, its rib tips are so good.
But you know what? Today is, a lot of people, I don't know if you know this, a lot of people are like,
I'm Team Jesus.
Maybe they're Catholic or whatever, and they or others,
right.
And they say,
I'm not going to have meat.
For whatever, I'm not going to have meat on Friday. Yeah. And yet you can still go to Fargo's on Friday. You know why? Because you can get the 4 C's. Catfish, yeah.
Crunchy,
hush puppies, corn and coleslaw.
And look, just because I'm not part of the team coleslaw, you can have mine.
I like coleslaw.
Yeah.
What do you like about it? I like the way it tastes. I like it's crunchy and there's different various kinds. But I like coleslaw. I like the coleslaw at Fargo's.
So tomorrow they're taking care of business.
I like to put it on my barbecue sandwich.
I hate when it touches anything on my plate, but that's a different conversation. So a week from tomorrow, if you wanted to go on a Saturday, you can get what?
Rib tips.
Good.
They'll change your life.
They will change your life.
They're meat dessert.
Yeah, they really are. Like, to me, the term dessert is like my dessert is more meat.
Yes, and this would be rib tips. Rib tips, you can't have too many.
No, you can't. They've been around for a long time, OB, 22 years. I bet you didn't know that. That's right. By now it's 23 years. At least. Football weekends, they're known for that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, what's better than a big plate of rib tips and then a
football game?
And then a football game. Actually, it's not plate. It's a styrofoam cup, but you get my gist.
From the high of a football game to the low of a funeral, they'll take care of any kind of event, celebration, family tradition. You mean it. Whatever you need. Sorry. 1701 South Texas Avenue in
I hope
Bryan.
they serve rib tips at my funeral.
Yeah. It would make it a pleasant experience.
Yeah.
Oh, I missed that guy. And then have another rib tip. Yeah.
He always said these were good. He was right.
Thanks, OB. And we kind of, dirty hands, touch the... Never mind.
It worked for me.
Without a doubt, the best barbecue in...
the world.
That's their trademark because it's...
true.
It's Fargo's. I'm happy, OB.
I would have thought, "Oh Happy Day." You know that one? It's kind of a gospel. They play it at the end of Secretariat, the movie.
Yeah, that's a good memory by you. TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio Go Hour, presented by The Warehouse at CC Creations. A little correction, if you will. Where did my page go? Here we go. Bravion Rogers from LaGrange. I think we said it reversed, and Dalton Brooks from Shiner. So
okay,
I think we said it in reverse. Anyway, let's get into
Shiner. I hear is a really cool little town. I've never been there. I need to go visit there.
Do you drink Shiner?
I have.
Yeah,
I have. And then I stopped drinking. But if I
you completely stop drinking?
Not completely, but
you'll have a glass of wine.
No, I don't like wine. But
You'll have a margarita.
I'll have a margarita and
on the rocks or on the ice.
I like.
Both the same.
Isn't that the same?
Yeah.
I like the frozen ones because basically it's just a Slurpee.
Yeah.
But and I might have 2 beers a year.
Guinness?
No. My wife likes that, though. She likes those dark beers.
Miller Lite?
No, I'm Shiner.
Okay, shine on. 23 and 23, presented by The Charge Apparel. Aggie owned and operated premier polos and tees made in the United States. 12% of total sales donated to organizations supporting veterans and mental health initiatives. You can visit them at thechargeapparel.com or find them on Instagram, The Charge Apparel, or Twitter, The Charge Brand. Number 6 in our 23 and 23 might be the most valuable player on the team. Not necessarily the best player of the team, but his value is so big, and he's a big dude as well. Number 6, Bryce Foster.
Well, we saw the difference that he made when he played, right? As an offensive lineman. The line was better with him. I think A&M won 2 of the 3 games he started. Now, they weren't necessarily big offensive games, but what would they have been without him? And quite frankly, when he got hurt and he played that Alabama game, he finished even though he had a torn ACL.
Right.
Tough kid. Strong, tough, good feet, all the things, smart. Dude. All the things you're looking for in an offensive lineman. He checks the boxes. But you noticed when he wasn't playing.
I don't care. Well, let me phrase it like this. Any SEC team that has a starting center go out for 8 games is going to suffer, especially a guy of his caliber, his talent, and what he did in his freshman year.
Oh, I agree with that. You know, to see him, to lose him last year, offensive linemen, are pretty obscure, right? They live in obscurity. If you notice one, he's really good. If you notice one when he's not playing, he's really good.
Right.
So I think Bryce Foster, to me, the only question about Bryce Foster sometimes is a mental thing. And I don't mean whether he's smart or not. I mean, sometimes you wonder how much he loves football. But if he is fully invested, because he has the track thing.
Yeah.
If he's fully invested, I'm talking a candidate for All SEC. Well, maybe a candidate for All American and a high draft pick.
His disposition at practice this year is just
I like him.
Happy. Let's go. Let's knock it out. And I expect him to have an excellent year. And you will be able to feel it early because the run game. I know that the plan with the quarterbacks is going to probably be a little bit quicker offense, quicker speed, get the ball out quicker. The running game, sometimes you have to let that develop. I think you'll notice him right away.
Do you remember when we were up in Denver and we saw him as a true freshman decleat that linebacker from I can't remember the kid's name, but Colorado had a linebacker that was making plays all over the field. Yeah. And then there was a sweep, and this linebacker was trying to pursue the play, and Bryce so athletic. I don't know if he pulled or not, or if he just got out that way, and peels back and just completely obliterates the kid. And that's what Bryce. And I've seen him on other plays where he's sprinting downfield looking for somebody to block with A-Chain on the sideline or somebody like that, obviously outrunning him. But you see the athleticism of this kid on display so often.
Yeah, you see the athleticism. And let's be honest. As he goes, the O-line goes, he's going to be a leader out there. He's going to set a tone. He's big. He's physical. And this is a huge year. If he ends up having the kind of year that I think he can have, he will probably be in the NFL next year.
Probably.
And
even though he's only technically a redshirt freshman.
Right. Sophomore, right?
Redshirt freshman.
Redshirt.
He only played 3 games last year. That gives him a redshirt year.
As for his future.
I'm sorry, you're
sophomore.
right. A third-year sophomore. Yeah, I got it. You know. He redshirted last year.
Correct. As for his future, if he is the caliber of player, no, he is the caliber. When he shows he's the caliber of player he is this year, that to me equates success in winning. And if he is a first-round, second-round NFL type player, this team is winning 9 or 10 games this year.
Well, I think he's the number one reason. There's a lot of reasons, but I think he's the number one reason to expect A&M's offensive line to be significantly improved. It starts with Bryce Foster.
100% it starts with Bryce Foster. Look, the whole line overall just needs to be healthy, right?
That would be a huge step in the right direction.
Has to be healthy. All right, we'll hit a break here. When we come back on TexAgs Radio, I'm going to ask you what is going to be A&M's identity in 2023. And before we do that, we'll probably go through the identity of the last few years. What was the identity in 20? What was the identity in 21? What's the identity in 22? And what will it be this year? Because I think the way you play determines your success, obviously, but your identity, how you go about your business, how they went about it in 2020 was successful. Are we going to see more of that? That'll be part of our conversation when we come back here on TexAgs Radio. But before we do that, let's do a little bit of the Association of Former Students. Here's one. Tailgate opportunities in Aggie Park. The first game of the football season is right around the corner, and if you're still looking for a great spot to tailgate this season before each game, the Association of Former Students is excited to announce a new partnership with Revel XP to make available additional tailgating space at Aggie Park for the 2023 season. The Aggie Spirit Lawn offers more than 60,000 square feet for tailgating with packages starting a few $100s for a preset space with coverings and chairs. Catering and other options are also available to add, and you are welcome to bring your own food and drinks to the tailgate. The lawn is situated in Aggie Park, steps away from Kyle Field and the Clayton W. Williams Jr. Alumni Center and the Moore Family Creamery. Not only is it close to all the action, but the park also provides amenities for all those who enjoy walking past, restrooms, Wi-Fi, and much, much more. If you are interested in learning more about the tailgating opportunities there at Aggie Park, visit tx.ag/Aggie Spirit Lawn. And we're back. TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers here in the Rollo Insurance Studio. Rollo Insurance is the official insurance provider of TexAgs Radio. The difference is real. They're an independent insurance company built around educating you on exactly what you're paying for, doing the shopping for you so that you can accomplish all of your insurance goals. The headquarters is on Highway 6 right here in College Station. Call them up, 888-44-ROLLO, or go to rolloinsurance.com. It is the Go Hour presented by The Warehouse at CC Creations, OB, myself. Apparently, things are getting a little heated. I don't know about heated. Things are getting interesting on the YouTube chat.
Really?
Yeah. By the way, we're doing all 3 hours on YouTube.
How do I see
now.
that? I guess I'd go to YouTube.
YouTube.com and go to the TexAgs page. By the way, everybody listening,
please subscribe.
Please subscribe to our YouTube page. You don't have to watch. I mean, watch us how you like to consume us, but it really helps us. So when you are on YouTube, you can see some of our old clips. It'd be great. I love the fact that many of you watch us on the CW. Many listen to us on the Zone, TexAgs.com. So continue doing those. But adding to our YouTube page would be very beneficial. Nick's job is really dependent on getting to 10,000 subscribers by September 1st.
Well, then
we're close.
Whoa, you're putting a deadline on. I was about to say I'm in a pretty good spot then because we've been climbing pretty steadily. But if there's a deadline on it, then yikes.
September 1st.
You'd say by the end of the year I'm in business, but
actually I think, like, honestly, we should double that number of subscribers because I know of a little small school that's got that. So we need to double that. Now, they don't have TexAgs and they don't have the TV show, but, we should double that number.
I'll just get my wife's family to...
You say that, but have you done it? I think you've said it before.
I haven't been down in the valley for a while.
You just send them a text message right now. Say, hey, if everybody listening right now sent... How many people, Nick? 5? Like a group text. Hey,
sure.
Do me a favor. It's a job project we're working on. Can you please, subscribe to the YouTube page on TexAgs, please? If everybody did 5, everybody listening, that'd be at least 5 subscribers.
And that way, your favorite radio personalities can get paid more money.
I don't think it works that way.
Oh.
But I wish it did.
I wish it did, too.
But I'm glad, that we're here. By the way,
that way Billy Liucci makes more money.
Well, this is true. I think we should, because I'm watching some of the stuff develop, and I think Kay Nagley's kind of enticing some of the action on the YouTube page.
I'm not seeing this.
I'll show you in a minute.
Okay.
I think we should set up like a media day for TexAgs, but it's not media day. It's like fan day or subscriber day, where we have little booths, and like all the listeners and the subscribers and the fan of the show can kind of meet each personality. Like,
how many people would be in line at the Richard Zane booth?
He's got a mother and a dad and a sister, right?
They know him.
Okay.
So that, yeah.
And a girlfriend.
The biggest, I'm being dead honest. I think the biggest group would be for Billy.
Of course.
I think you'd be second.
Okay.
And
we had a nice crowd last night.
And I think
yeah,
Kay, Kennedy, one of those would be third. Nick and I, last.
Nah, you'd get the Hispanic vote.
You think we have a big Spanish listener group?
Yeah, I think so.
Why not the other demographics?
Huh? Because they don't listen to rap?
Let's move on. What's A&M's identity going to be in 2023? So I say that, and you can text the show and tell us your thoughts on that, 979-693-1150. But let's go back. In 2022, what was the identity of A&M? Well, and not like one line, App State. That's not their identity. What was their...
You talking last year?
Yeah.
Their identity was they had no identity.
Correct.
That was the identity.
On both sides of the ball.
Right. So...
I guess the identity defensively
was that you can't stop the run.
You can't stop the run. You don't give up a lot of points, but it doesn't matter because you can't stop the run.
Right. But I think usually, fair or unfair, maybe I'm wrong on this. You can disagree with me. I'm sure you will. But I think typically when you say identity, it pertains to offense.
Yeah. Well, like, for instance, I'm jumping over 21, but I do want to go back to it. I think in 2020 was a team that would suffocate you. Mm-hmm. That's the identity.
Yeah, there was a team that would beat you in the fourth quarter.
Yep. And they'd set you up.
Wear you down.
And then at the end of it, they may not be up by 25 points, but they sure knew how to close out a game.
Well, what was interesting about this, they changed their identity because, they were a big scoring team against Florida and actually moved the ball pretty well against Alabama.
Yeah.
But then Caleb Chapman, who's your really only real deep threat, got hurt. And so they had to say, hey, what's the best way for us to win? Well, it's to feed the running backs and then, do some play action here and there. And
feed the running backs.
Yeah,
I like
the studs.
Feed the studs.
That Spiller and A-Chain combination, that worked pretty well.
FTS. We should get a TexAgs shirt that says that.
FTS. Feed the studs. Feed those studs.
Yeah, it's getting kind of awkward in here.
Put the feedback on.
So 21, the identity. I don't know if 21 had an identity. The feeling was if our quarterback was healthy. If our quarterback was healthy, was the feel of 21. And then in 22, we found out it really wasn't that.
Yes.
Isn't that like what we felt like?
Yeah.
If Haynes King was around, and look, Zach actually might have been the better quarterback.
Might have been. I think that it was still. It was it was so different because the first 4 or 5 games, it was just frustrating to watch the offense, and then they beat Alabama, and then they beat Missouri and South Carolina and Auburn, and then you're thinking, okay,
they turned the corner. They are legit.
And then they lost the last 2 games.
Billy brought up, I think on the show, like how quickly a player to that season changes the entire way we even look at right now. Because legit LSU, shoulda, coulda, woulda, right? There were other games in there. I think Arkansas was just not a good game. Even though you made it a game, it wasn't a good game. You had a chance in the fourth quarter, but they were the better team throughout that game. But all that being said, that year was if we were just healthy, if we were, and partially last year, if we were healthy. But that's not what the problem was last year. The problem was they didn't have an identity.
Yeah, it was like they were trying to search, okay, what's going to work for us in this game? And the only thing that worked, well, here's their identity, was give it to A-Chain and hope for the best.
Yeah.
The problem was everybody else knew that too until the LSU game, and then we started seeing Connor and Moose and Evan getting more involved. So it became, I don't want to call it balanced, not when A-Chain goes for 200 and whatever it was, but then you were hitting them with different punches. But I think for the most part, again, I'd say their identity was they really didn't have one because there wasn't one thing that you were going to stick to. But when he was healthy, it was like, hey, how far can A-Chain take us? And that's what everybody else knew too.
Yeah.
That was playing against you.
And I'm okay with that somewhat because I always use Stockton and Malone as my example in this, but you knew the pick and roll was coming, but could you stop it? And I'm okay with, like, we'll keep going to A-Chain. I don't care. We'll keep going to Ruben Owens. We'll keep going, right? But do you have the other pieces in place to make sure that you can do that? Because it isn't just about A-Chain. It is about the O-line. It is about so many different areas.
Quarterback.
How you disguise plays, how you set up the last play.
Which they rarely disguised plays last year. And maybe that was because there were reasons, with the youth and whatnot. But, last year, I'll just say the identity was there was no identity. You were searching for the identity. You were in limbo.
Yeah, you were in limbo. By the way, a lot of people subscribing to the YouTube page. Just that little announcement right there. We got some new ones on there. Ron just joined on.
Thank you, Ron.
Appreciate that. And somebody texted in, what is the preferred way of taking in the show? And I think whatever works for you.
Whatever works for you. If you're driving and want to listen on the radio, fine. If you want to drive and listen on your cellular devices,
right,
that's great too.
So what my parents, for instance, who like to watch they watch every morning. I don't think they understand what I'm talking about, but they watch every morning. They love to watch their son. And I have it set up on a computer for them to watch it on TexAgs.com.
The wife watches it that way.
Or
she watches on the CW.
On the CW. Here in College Station, I hear often from people, sometimes at the gym they may have it on, right? It's on the CW. A lot of people watch it like that. I like variety. It depends on my situation. Sometimes I want to hear something that Billy talked about on one of his other shows, so I go on a podcast and I find it. Sometimes I want to watch it on YouTube as I'm at an event or if I'm walking and I want to watch it. Sorry, I do. So it doesn't matter. But I'd love the subscribers on YouTube, on Spotify, on Apple iTunes, wherever you take it. Just subscribe to it. It helps us out. Brandon on the text line sends in identity, unexpected and threatening traditional sure things. Unexpected and threatening traditional sure things.
So
I don't know what that is.
I think the identity is going to be unexpected. You're not going to expect what you're going to see from them. And then they're going to threaten the old sure things of the SEC. I think that's what he's saying. Like, you're going to threaten the Alabamas and the LSU. Or maybe you're just going to threaten what they think, what they know about A&M.
Yeah.
But that goes back to the unexpected part.
Yeah, look, I want some plays that are unexpected. Like, I want to be, as a fan, as a member of the media, sitting in the press box with you, OB, and being like, what do you think they're going to do?
And I'm going to say, I don't know.
I don't even know, dude. Because for the last few years, you'd be like, they're going to run the ball right here.
Here it comes.
Here on the right-hand side. It's going to be on the right-hand side again, isn't it? And it would be, right? Like,
I knew this. Every time A-Chain had a long run, and he had a lot of them, and I don't mean like 60 yards, but 10 yards or something. If I was the defensive coordinator, I'd have my entire unit key on A-Chain on the next play. Because if he made a play, they came right back to him, and they never would play action off of him after a big play or fake it to him in another way or just run somebody else or zone read. They just didn't.
Yeah.
And they were so predictable.
Let's hit a break. We will come back with what I call a lot more, but it's not that much more. We're going to do a little bank on it, OB. We're going to bank on something brought to you by Vera Banks. So think about what you want to bank on. We'll get to some more text messages. It is TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. On the text line, Kennedy, there's a text from Leo in Houston. If you want to read that he has a comparison for our friend Olin Buchanan.
Uh-oh.
OB is the Archie Bunker of TexAgs. Gotta love him.
Okay, meathead.
You don't know what that means.
I don't know who that is.
Oh, he's one of the most iconic characters in American TV history.
Archie Bunker, yeah.
Okay.
But I'm not. I can see why he was saying that, but I'm not racist or anything like that.
Oh my God, I don't think that's what. All right, let's do.
I don't even know if Archie was. I think Archie was just unenlightened.
He was just old. Bank on It, presented by Vera Bank. Authentic relationship-based banking built for real life. Go see Joel Jackson and the team. Learn more at verabank.com. What are you banking on?
Maybe I'm going to go watch some reruns of All in the Family to check out Archie and see how much I look at it or how much I'm like him. But no, I am banking on.
Is Richard Meathead? Or is Billy the hair?
Who would be the meathead around here? Who just annoys me? Richard doesn't annoy me.
Brawny?
Yeah, Brawny's meathead.
And
that goes without saying.
All right.
Yeah.
As you were saying.
I'm going to I'm going to set myself up for a big letdown, but I am banking on the Texas Rangers bouncing back from that disappointing 2-0 loss that I almost watched twice and having a strong series against the Milwaukee Brewers coming up and going on another winning streak to stave off those pesky Astros in the NL West race.
Kelly Adams,
West race,
who does the fan show, is a huge Ranger guy. Always brings him up. I mentioned to him that the Rangers' schedule down the stretch is not easy. They got some tough games, but the Astros have the Mariners, who've been hot this week. So the Rangers maybe don't need to be that hot, because as hot as they were, to stay ahead, but then at the end, it's going to be a little bit more dicey. I think they get the Mariners twice.
You know what I've noticed, though, in the little bit of time I've started paying attention to Major League Baseball again, is the Rangers. Here's the biggest difference between the Rangers and Astros, even though the Rangers are first place. They have a tendency to find a way to lose games late.
Okay.
And the Astros find ways to win them late. Like the
a game against the Rangers, too, didn't they?
Well, but I'm thinking just recently I was listening on the radio, and the Astros went into the ninth inning like down 3-0 and won it on a grand slam.
Yeah, that was a good
one. Who
one.
was that against?
Was it the
Orioles?
Rays? Orioles, yes.
Was
it was the Orioles.
Yeah,
it was.
Like, come on. But that's why, as much as I don't want to believe this, the Astros, I think, ultimately is going to win the West.
So I'm banking on,
and I don't want them to,
the Aggie soccer team bouncing back against a very quality opponent on Sunday against Washington State. I was at the game yesterday. I did the broadcast with the crew. I feel like Dennis Miller on Monday Night Football.
Yeah.
Like I'm like that. Like I don't really fit.
I actually got an email from someone praising you.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
I feel like I was a disaster. But that being said, because I don't know, like Jeff Given knows soccer. Dave Ellis knows soccer. I watch soccer. I just had like these one-liners, and sometimes they hit, sometimes they didn't. But I felt like Dennis Miller, like,
you know soccer.
I do, but not like at the level of those dudes. But my thing is, they're going to bounce back. Kevin, can you give us a little update on what actually transpired last night?
Soccer-wise?
Yeah. Or if not, I can, if not.
Yeah, I can. I mean, I don't know that much about soccer, but I know that women's soccer started last night. Yeah. Against number 6 Florida State, and they lost by 1 goal, 2-1.
It was in the last 4 minutes of the game.
Yeah.
They were the better team, in my opinion, for about 85% of the game, and not by much. It was back and forth. But Florida State's got, I forget how many World Cup players. They actually played in the World Cup. They got the best recruiting class. They're good. But I think A&M will bounce back. Obi, any final football thoughts before we hit the break?
It's just 15 days away.
15 días.
That's what I just
Who's number 15 on the Aggies?
Connor Wigman.
Yes, sir.
OB, I got a quick stat for where you're just talking about here. So 9th inning comeback wins. The Astros have 4 this year. The Rangers have how many, OB?
Probably 0.
0, that's correct. But comeback wins total, the Rangers actually have more with 31. And I guess I don't know what they're qualifying as a comeback win, but Rangers apparently have 31 comeback wins, and the Astros only have 29.
Well, I did couch it by saying since I've been paying attention.
There you go.
For 9 days. He's OB. The Archie Bunker of TexAgs Radio. When we come back, a little Sean Porter action. It's TexAgs Radio. And we're back, TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Let's talk a little defense. Let's talk a little linebacker life. Let's talk about Aggie football with Sean Porter here on the hotline. Sean, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Good morning. How's it going?
Good, man. How you been?
I've been pretty good. Man. Just, working, living, raising these two young girls I got.
You've been traveling a little bit too, right?
Yeah, I travel a little bit, yeah.
Let's talk about this upcoming year after the failure of 2022. Your excitement level considering all the pieces that are in place here and hopefully a new identity.
Yeah, I'm excited. I think that we got a lot of good pieces to the puzzle. We got Anaya Smith coming back. We got Evan Stewart over there at wideout. I love our quarterback. I love Wigman. The fire that he brings. I think he'll be a good piece for us. Defensively, I think that we got some potential over there, right? We got a bunch of good athletic defensive linemen. They should be able to get to the quarterback this year. We have some potential at linebacker. We got returning all conference player in Damani Richardson. So we should be all right. We should be able to make a little bit of noise.
Are there questions that A&M has to answer for you before you're all in, or have they done a good enough job, at least peripherally, answering those questions about whatever the defense or offense could look like?
Before I'm all in, I mean, we haven't answered any. When did they answer the questions? Last year?
No.
We haven't answered.
I'm saying that they answered questions, at least fixing issues, right? So they got Bobby Petrino because the play calling was an issue last year. So they answered that question. We'll have to see how it translates. Defensively, a second year of the system and with hopefully an emphasis on stopping the run. I guess those are still out there.
Yeah, so I mean, like I said, I think we have a lot of potential, but I wouldn't say that any questions have been answered already for me. I'd like to see us put it on in the games, the real games.
So the rush defense was so disheartening to watch last year. What do you think the issue was, and how, I don't want to say easy of a fix is it, but potentially how fixable is it?
I couldn't pinpoint the issue, man, but I just know people were running all over the yard on us. That's fixable, though. I mean, most of the time, whenever people are running on you like that, it's a schematic thing. It's like people are stepping to the wrong gaps, taking 3 steps the wrong way, linebacker-wise. And things are just spitting to the secondary. So I think we can clean that up. I just think that it's probably a studying thing. It's probably in the meeting room, in the classroom type of thing. These guys just need to, focus in a little bit and it'll get cleaned up. Well, most of the time when you see those big runs spitting through, though, from the linebacker's perspective, that's just mental errors.
I think that's an interesting point, Sean, because there's so much made about the youth, right, and the culture. But really, youth, you have to, I remember my freshman year in college, not even playing sports, right? Just trying to learn how to study the right way. There's an adjustment to how to be a college football player. There's an adjustment to how to learn how to study. When you've been so athletic and so gifted your whole life, you never had to study on the field. You just kind of outworked people and outplayed people. That's not always the case when you're a freshman.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, it's a huge adjustment coming from high school to a big university like A&M especially. Yeah, you have to learn how to play. You got to learn how to play a new game. It's a whole different game. It's just like going from college to the NFL. You got to learn how to play again, right? It's just stepping up with the big boys and being more detailed about your work and getting it done.
Sean, what was a bigger adjustment, high school to college or college to the pros?
I'd probably say college to the pros, but I see how high school to college is a really big jump as well. I would just say college to the pros because it's like college to the pros, you're going from playing with kids and, half the people on the field aren't going to be pro athletes, right? They're just people and they're going to go and get a normal job and live their life. You go from that to playing with like the monstars of the football world, the all conference players, it's like the super all-star team. So it's a bit different up there.
I agree with that. I will say in today's football with the extra year of COVID and also the fact that younger players are playing more because of this new NIL and transfer world, I think that is something that, part of the problem we saw last year with A&M, you had 17 and 18-year-olds going against 23-year-old men.
Yes. Georgia, I joke with one of my coworkers all the time about how Georgia's playing, 23, 24, 25-year-old guys out there. Stetson Bennett was like 37 last year playing quarterback for him. So, I mean, yeah, you're right. I mean, it's tough for a 17, 18-year-old kid to get out there and play against those grown men,
Let's go back to some of the teams that you were on, maybe the ones that were special, maybe the ones that weren't. How early in the process was it apparent, all right, this team could be special? Like 2012, this team could be special. And then some seasons that weren't so special, how early could you tell, I don't know if we're going to be what we thought we'd be?
Well, my freshman year, I came in and I kind of knew it was coming, man. Like we were gonna get beat over the head all year, but it was just because we didn't have a complete team at that point, at that moment, you know. And then my next couple of years, it was kind of the same thing, just building it up, building it up. My junior year, we actually had a really, really good team. We really could have, you know, competed for anything we wanted to if we stayed a little bit more focused. We lost all those games by just 3 points and 1 point, and you know, we had a lot of real close losses. But definitely going into 2012, I definitely knew what was coming. Like I knew how good we were. I knew we were loaded on offense and on defense. I knew that we had this special couple of freshmen that the rest of the country didn't know that we had. So you know, so that matched up with just our experience as seniors. We had a huge senior class. My senior class was big. I think we broke a record. We started the most freshmen ever when we were freshmen. It was like 18 or 19 freshmen starting for us out there. And then by the time we were seniors, I think, I don't know, maybe 10 or 13 of us ended up going to the NFL. So that group was really strong, added with a couple of very special players like Johnny and Mike and you know, that strong offensive line who all of them went to the NFL too. We had a really, really loaded team. And it's just, I think other people just didn't realize how loaded we were.
I want to go back to that 2011 season that you mentioned because it sounds somewhat similar, even though that team was much more successful than what we saw last year. But those one-score games and those games that you lost by 3-4 points, that was A&M season all last year with a bunch of young players. But then that next year, it all worked. Is that something that this team and these fans can point to? Like, look, sometimes it isn't that much of a difference from year 1 to year 2, but the results are different.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you can see. Like I said, I thought we were very, very, very talented in 2011 as well. So before that season, I thought we were going to rip it up. You know, I thought we were going to run through the Big 12 that year. Sometimes the ball just doesn't roll your way. You know, as you know in football, it does take a little bit of luck to be on your side for all of these things to work out the right way, for us to go win the SEC championship, for us to go win a national championship. The ball's going to have to bounce our way once or twice in there. So it's just, I hope that we can get those lucky couple bounces that we didn't get last year. And I hope that these guys are a little bit more prepared and on their P's and Q's. And I hope that the coaches are prepared and on their P's and Q's. And we just get in here and do what we're supposed to be doing. Because here at A&M, I mean, we have all the resources. We have everything that you could, you know, humanly imagine that you would want as a college football player to be comfortable and to be put in the right position to succeed. So, you know, I think it's pretty much, we're looking for a national championship here at A&M.
Talking about Sean Porter here, TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. You may have already kind of answered this, but where do you see A&M most vulnerable? Is it the thing that we keep bringing up, the stop and the run, or is it maybe some other areas?
I think it's stopping the run. I think that in order to be a good team, in order to be any type of good team, you have to run the ball and you have to stop the run. If you can't do one or the other, then it slows down everything else. Everything, you know, goes off of those big nasties up front. So the offensive line has to lead on the offensive side, and the defensive line has to lead on the defensive side. And both of those start with, you know, the run game.
A lot of people mention how Damani kind of plays the position like a linebacker, even though he's back there at safety. Just how important was it to get him back, his leadership, his physical traits, what he means to this program?
Extremely important. Very good player. Would have probably been a top 3 round draft pick had he come out last year. So it's extremely important to have a leader like that back on the field and out there with his guys. If not only for his play, for the way that he leads and the way that he talks to those guys and encourages those guys and picks them up when they're down and makes things work out there. You need that piece that just kind of knows what's going on and has that feel for the game. And it helps everyone else out a lot.
He's linked with Anias because they both mean similar things to each side of the ball. Getting both of those guys back with something to prove. Both want to, enhance their draft status for sure, but also they don't want to leave Texas A&M as the 5-7 team. They want to leave it more like 2020.
Right. Yeah, I think those guys have a lot of potential. I think they got a chance to do it. I think Anias actually probably could play defense if he wanted to. So these kids are talented, man. Very talented these days.
Who do you think is the most important player on defense? Most important player on offense, I think most people point to whoever wins the quarterback spot. And You already mentioned your thoughts on Connor. But what about defensively? Who, is there a guy, or is it more defense is more collection?
I mean, defense is a collection. For the most part, the most important player on defense is going to be the one who makes the most plays and impacts his team the most, his teammates the most. One of my favorite players to watch last year on film or whenever I was, caught a couple games, it was number 1, Bryce Anderson. I think he brings a lot to the table, man. Just like his energy and just the way that he comes up and hits and the way that he plays, the passion that he brings that I can just see on game film. I'm sure that they talk about him, around there where y'all are about him this way, but he just seems to be the type of player we need around here. He seems to be the type of player that the Aggies need on the field at all times, to me.
Sean, he's just now a sophomore. He was just a freshman last year with that impact, and he was the number 1. The other number 1, Evan Stewart. Both those guys can be the team leaders this year, entering just their second year.
Agreed. And I don't think that they should shy away from that. I think that that's a privilege, and that it takes the respect of your teammates to even be in the position to do that, right? So they've already got the respect of their teammates. They've earned it. They should step into that role and be happy and lead as they are.
I don't know if we've hit the limit on how many times I can ask people about the Johnny doc, because it's been a little bit over a week and that's been a topic, but you were there, you saw it, you had a front row seat to part of it. What did you think about the documentary?
I thought it was great. I'm glad that it wasn't, I actually thought it was going to be a little bit worse. I thought they'd go, they'd make it a little bit worse on a little hard, they'd be a little harder on them, but it was good, man. I liked it. He got to step out there and tell a story to the world. I feel like we've spent years kind of defending that a little bit and just kind of trying to keep it in-house, as our little family thing. But I think it's a beautiful thing that he got to tell that story to the world, and it's important. It was important for him to be able to do that. So, and especially for these kids now with the NIL and all that, it's like what Johnny was doing was a very minimal level, right? And what anyone was doing back then in 2012 in college football in regards to getting money and to, all the off the field stuff. It was very minimal compared to what these kids are doing today, right? So it was just kind of like a precursor to what should have been going on the whole time, which is that these athletes that are worth so much money for their universities and everyone, the whole ecosystem around them, they can benefit from it some type of way. Because Johnny, I mean, if you look at it, Johnny's worth a lot of money when he was in college, if we're being real.
What kind of teammate was he?
Great teammate. A great teammate, right? So I've known Johnny since we were in high school. I tell the story all the time, I think. I've known Johnny since we were in high school. We played against each other in high school. So kind of San Antonio area guys, both came to A&M. He kind of gravitated towards me when he got here because we were both San Antonio guys. So hung out a lot, just got to know him really well. He was a great teammate. It wasn't, nothing on the field, nothing, teammate wise was bad about him. This kid is outstanding, man. One of the best college football players that have ever lived. So, I mean, for anybody to say he was a bad teammate, they would be mistaken. He was a great teammate. I mean, everybody ain't going to lay it all out on the line for you, right? One player in particular that shows me how great of a teammate he is, something happened in the Ole Miss game, and those guys end up with the ball running back the other way, and he's on offense. He chases the guy down, strips him, takes the ball from him. The guy picks it back up, keeps running, chases him down again, tackles him, makes a great play for us, And I don't think that play even actually counted, but just watching him do that showed me like, no, this kid isn't just out here trying to, throw 3 touchdowns a game. He's out here. He cares about this team. He cares about winning first and foremost. And that's what I always loved about Johnny is he's a winner. He's not concerned with all the other little things, all the, whatever else is going on around it. At the end of the day, all we're trying to do is win this game and get up out of here, right? So Johnny, he was good at keeping the main thing.
I don't think anybody could have predicted Johnny football, right? The level of his greatness. That being said, was there a point that summer where you're like, this guy's on a different level?
Man, the thing about it is Johnny football that didn't happen at Texas A&M, Right. He was already Johnny football. He was already a Texas high school legend, right? A legend. Like he was, people talked about him already as Johnny football. The same way they talk about him now, it's just on a bigger scale. So I knew already, I kind of, I'm looking at it like, okay, this kid lit up high school. That nobody could touch him in high school. Then he comes in and we're in spring ball and we're in camp and stuff. And he's tearing it up. It's like he's running, he's passing, he's efficient, he's loose. He's not like you never want your quarterback to be like, I don't know if I can say that, but like tight ass, like real You know, you don't want your quarterback to be that way. We have a very relaxed quarterback who's free flowing and everything just kind of works. Our receivers know that they can go off script a little bit and he'll work with them. So I think it was amazing playing with Johnny at quarterback, especially for the college game. I mean, he was a perfect quarterback for the college game.
He was so good that every quarterback from now on will be compared to Johnny here at Texas A&M. Is he Johnny-esque, right? And I think Connor, while a different game, has got a little of the same moxie, right?
Yeah, that's what I like about him. I like Connor. I like Connor a lot.
That is Sean Porter here on the hotline. Sean, you be coming to some games this year?
Yeah, I'll catch a couple. I come down at least 2-3 times a year.
All right, man. We'll get you in the studio, hang out, and hope to see you soon, all right?
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much. Sean Porter there on the hotline, bringing his thoughts on the upcoming season. Very good analysis there. All right, when we come back, got an open segment. Got some politicians trying to get involved in conference realignment. We can talk a little bit about that. We can get back to some of the text messages and some of the thoughts that we had earlier on in the program. One of the questions that we did ask is who's a new player who's going to be a household name when it's all said and done? And the other question we asked is what's going to be A&M's identity this year? Like, what does it need to be? Based on what we've heard, what we've seen, and what the players coming back, what's the identity going to be? What does it need to be? So we'll get into that. You can do that a couple different ways. You can text us on the hotline, 979-693-1150. 979-693-1150 is the way to get that one done. Or you can call us up at that same number, too, and give us your thoughts. We have an open segment. And then at 9:35, J.D. PicKell of On3 is going to join us. And J.D. had some really deep thoughts on Bobby Petrino's offense and what it could look like. He went really deep into what he has done at other stops and how it'll translate to the talent we see here at Texas A&M. So we'll talk to J.D. about that here momentarily. But before we do that, let's talk Heritage Films, which is a company that is awesome, but they do documentary films. So if there's somebody important in your life that you'd like to honor and have their story preserved for generation after generation, or maybe it's like you, like you're like I'm getting up there. It's my 65th birthday, it's my 42nd birthday, whatever it may be, and I really want my kids and their kids to really know all the good stuff. Now, we did it for my father at 92, right? He was 92 years old. He's 93 now. We did it at 92, and it was such a cool deal to, he's in really good shape for his age, but to be able to tell his life story from escaping from Cuba to meeting my mom here in the States, who also is Cuban, who had to leave the country, to being an engineer here in town, and how the language barrier initially was a barrier for him, and a big issue, I should say. All these storylines, right, that I've heard over the years, the street he grew up on, what his life was like there, like I've heard them. My kids have heard them, but they don't recognize. Like when they're 8, 9, 10 years old, they don't really absorb that information. Well, now that is preserved on video for generation after generation. So then my boys who are 15, in 15, 20 years, when they have their own family, they can share that story with them. Like, this is where you came from. This is your family story, right? And that's just part of what Heritage Films does. They also do these benchmark videos called the Year Flicks, which is basically questions for your kids, right? Annalise, my daughter, we did one with her where it's a Q&A, 20 minutes long video. What's your favorite soda? What are you into? All these different things. And in a couple of years, we'll update that video, and you'll see her growth, benchmarks, different things throughout the years. The website is Heritage Films, yourheritagefilm.com, I should say, yourheritagefilm.com. 713-893-8341, 713-893-8341. Drove my kids crazy on the way to Denver. As we drove through Amarillo, I made sure that Amarillo by morning was blaring, and I would use it in sentences just to annoy them. It's TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. A couple topics to get into here. Let's check in with Kennedy Cavan there at the News and Social Center. Kennedy.
Hello. Madden and
Do that
Houston.
hello again? That was an interesting
I know. My voice cracked.
It was a little Donald Duckish.
I know. Hello. There we go. That's more normal. Madden
that was an annoyed normal.
Madden in Houston said, I want to see our weapons utilized. There's too much talent to suck on offense like we have. That's a little harsh, but.
Truth. Well, here's the thing. Bobby Petrino has answered that for you. He wants to feed the studs. He wants to use the weapons, right? So I think by verbalizing it, they're not going to tell us the game plan, right? But by verbalizing that, we've underutilized some of our weapons, let's use them. Let's score some points, and then when we need to suffocate the teams that we're playing against, especially late in the fourth quarter, we've got the running backs to do it. That's the hope. That is the direction they're going, and I think we'll see that. Ms. Kevin?
On a little bit of a lighter note, not football note, Chris in Fort Worth said, wanting to know if Nuño repped Paul Wall / Swisha House.
Swisha House?
Were you a Chopped and Screwed fan or only old school? And then he said, wondering because of the A-Leaf background.
So I was not into Chopped and Screwed. You know what Screwed is?
No. I know Paul Wall, but I don't know.
Yeah, the People's Champ, my buddy. My good friend, Paul Wall. No, I was not into that. I was not into Screwed. Screwed's when they slow it down. That wasn't my thing at all. I was more into the East Coast side of things, of rap in that world. And I loved a little Tupac and West Coast. Who didn't in that era, right? So I wasn't really into the Houston rap, which I know isn't like okay to say in front of people, but it was what it was. Anything else, Miss Kevin?
Trey and Brian.
Hi, Trey.
Hi, Trey. Speaking of identity, why do you think the offense virtually used no pre-snap motion last season, and do you think that will change this year?
I don't know why they didn't. I don't know if it was an acumen. I don't know if young players couldn't pick it up. I don't know. I don't know. That's the simple answer. Do I think we're going to see a lot more of that this year? 100%. You're going to see Anaya split out wide, come in the backfield. Like, they're going to admit, yes. So, and I know Jimbo has done that in years past, too. Sometimes I think you only got to see a sample of what they wanted to do based on where they were mentally, right? And then some of the big games, they did come out with some stuff we didn't expect. No, but I 100% think we'll see a lot more of that. And not only do I think it, I certainly do expect it. It has to be different. It 100% has to be different. So here's the topic I wanted to get into here. Two things. ACC expansion. So Condoleezza Rice and George W. Bush lobbying on behalf of Stanford and SMU for the ACC. I don't think it really matters, but I like heavyweights in politics getting involved, right? Like, I don't know if I like it, to be honest with you, but I think it's interesting. Like, you get a call from Condoleezza Rice. You get a call from George W. Bush. You're like, yes, sir? Yes, ma'am? Like, there's definitely going to be a listen. And I know that politics have played a part in conference realignment in years past. Hello, we saw it in the Southwest Conference to the Big 12. We've seen it with certain teams getting granted in and certain teams not getting in, right, to the Big 12 at that time. The bottom line is I don't see the match for Stanford at all. The Big Ten makes way more sense, but the Big Ten's not. And the ACC is trying to do anything desperately to stay relevant because when it goes, it can go like that. Because I bet you a year ago, nobody would have seen the demise of the Pac-12 the way we're seeing it. Nobody would have predicted it. And then you lose two schools, and then two more schools go, and yeah, it's over. The ACC is thinking to themselves, we got to be strategic here. We got to be more like the Big 12 here and just start adding properties to some names to our brand, because if we don't, we may be having 4 schools, right? Not that it's, and by the way, the granted rights deal, the legal jargon that I think there's some experts out there that will figure out a way for Florida State, if not this year or next year or the year after, to get out. What you want to be as a conference is in a position to be able to withstand a huge loss like that. The Big 12 lost their 2 biggest brands that were left. And I don't know if they're stronger as a conference without those schools, but the perception of them is they're on the way up, even though the schools that they added, they're nice, they're fine. They're not Texas, OU, Michigan, USC level. They're not A&M, right? They're not that level. But the perception is, look, things were falling apart, but they started bringing it in. And I think that's the play that the ACC is doing. And also in doing so, hopefully calm the nerves of a Clemson and a Florida State. But those schools, and Clemson's been a lot more quiet than Florida State. Florida State's been very open about it. But if there's a glimmer of hope for them to get in the SEC and get out of their contract, the grant of rights deal with the ACC, they're going to try to exercise that. And if you're the SEC, you're not even looking at them. Now, if they're available, do you reevaluate the situation? Sure, but they're not. Here's another one. I'll involve Nick in this one. Shannon Sharp joining Stephen A. Smith. I know that you, Nick, are a big Stephen A. Smith fan. What do you think about that pairing? They're going to.
I actually don't I know. Did you say that sarcastically?
Yeah, I said sarcastically.
Well, I mean, like, I don't mind him. I think, like, the thing that annoys me with him, and I'm not even a Cowboys fan, but like the just constant harping and saying outlandish things about the Cowboys just to get a rise out of the fan base. That kind of annoys me. And again, not a Cowboys fan. So, but I mean, other than that, I mean, his personality is a little entertaining to me.
I don't hate him. I don't really watch him either. There was a time I could stomach Skip. I can't stomach him anymore.
Yeah, I was about to say Stephen A is a lot more tolerable than Skip Bayless is.
Right, like Skip. He says things to say things, and then because he said it, he'll die on a sword on it. It's okay to be wrong. I know on a debate show you can't be wrong. It's okay to be wrong. What did he say the other day that just I saw was just like, shut up. Like, now he was a big Johnny Manziel proponent.
The other day he said something about Dwayne Haskins not being a good quarterback or something when he's been, he was unfortunately killed not too long ago, and he was still on a graphic on a list, and I don't think he ever said anything about it. He said his name live on air, too. Said he's not going to be a good quarterback, and he's been dead for a little bit.
He said he's not going to be
It was some sort of discussion that was like maybe it was like tiers of quarterbacks or something, and he mentioned him by name, and he's, has been dead for a while.
I think Shannon Sharp's good at what he does. I do. I don't like those shows. I think they serve a purpose, but like, they become too, and we've talked about that before, but I think it's an interesting pairing because I honestly don't think I've watched Stephen A. Smith since he was with Skip. I'm sure it's been on at some point with Max Kellerman when Max was on the show. I don't really watch that. I did watch a few times Skip and Shannon, and I think more because the clips would show up on social because those guys would fight a lot.
Yell at each other.
But I think Shannon's good at what he does. I don't always agree with him. In fact, I think sometimes he's way off, but I think he's fine at that role. And if you're into debate shows, it'll probably work. There's some other good ones. I forget who. I saw that Nick Wright, who used to be in Houston, used to be in Kansas City. There was a chance that he was going to join Skip on whatever that show's called. It's not First Take. It's Undisputed, right?
Yep.
But apparently Skip said no because Nick has owned him on air on a couple different occasions. So Nick's a very good arguer. I'll give him that. All right, let's hit a break. We'll come back. J.D. PicKell. You want to learn about Bobby Petrino's offense? He has a really good dive into that. So we'll talk to J.D., get his thoughts on what the offense could look like. And I'm looking forward to hearing it because he had a nice little breakdown. This is me scrambling for my copy because I don't know where it is. Here it is. I went right over it. But right now, let's talk about the Charge apparel. I am actually wearing a Charge apparel shirt right now. Right? Fits me good. See it feels good. Right? The clothes are amazing. The dudes are even better. They're two dudes, and they're great. I'm telling you that right now. Tucker's awesome. No doubt about it. Travis as well. Both military guys. Travis was commissioned to the Air Force while Tucker was with the Army. They separated from the military, and they formed the Charge Apparel as a way to serve this country, but in a different way, right? Through veteran nonprofits that they support. So 12% of all their sales, right? Not just profits. Total sales are donated to veteran nonprofit partners with a focus on mental health initiatives. As an ode to the 12th man, they stand in support of our servicemen and women by donating 12% of all their sales, right? And the clothing is thebomb.com. Premier fabric, lightweight, slightly tailored fit through the chest, through the arms, designed to make you look and feel your best. And the fabric is like the Lululemon type of fabric. Like they use the best stuff out there. It is awesome. Check out the website, thechargeapparel.com. Again, that website is thechargeapparel.com. Find them on Instagram at The Charge Apparel or on Twitter at The Charge Brand. See my dude JD bobbing his head to it. That's what's up. TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. JD PicKell with us here from On 3. You a Bad Bunny guy, or just that one was hit the right note?
It's just hitting, man. It's Feel Good Friday. Like, the vibes are high. Last Friday before some college football. I mean, I was not expecting to have that kind of beat playing in my ear, but I loved it, man. I'm happy to be on with you.
Well, thanks for joining us, man. It was great to get to know you a little bit there in Nashville when we were doing SEC Media Days. I do want to start things off with this video you did because it was great. I watched it, and I think I learned quite a bit. What do you think the A&M offense is going to look like? Because a lot of it has been like, well, Bobby's done this, but he's also done that, and he's done this, and he's done that. But now he's got all this talent. You kind of try to sum it up in what you think he's trying to put into work.
Yeah, it's a bit of a guessing game at this point, obviously. So we're kind of trying to piece together what Bobby Petrino has done over the years. And I think when you put it down into like categories, I could say he's going to stick to that principle of we're going to feed the studs, right? Which if you're an A&M fan, that's obviously music to your ears. We're going to get the football to our best players. Now, how we do that, that's probably going to vary, whether it's running the football and getting downhill, or whether it's running some shallow crossing patterns to have an all coverage beater, or whatever it looks like, we're getting the ball to our best players. And I think one of the most indicative stats last year for Texas A&M's offense, they were pretty unbalanced. Like they were 46% run to pass, which is 99th in the country in terms of how frequently they ran the football. And so if you're a Texas A&M fan, saying, okay, we're not being balanced, that doesn't sound good, but what does that actually mean? When you're not balanced, it means a couple of things. It means, one, the defense is able to kind of key on some tendencies that you're starting to tip your hand a little bit as an offense. The other part is, if you're unbalanced, you're probably not feeding the studs like Bobby Petrino wants to. You're probably not involving the maximized potential of what your skill players could equate to. So I think as a whole, I expect a lot more hands to touch the football a lot more frequently. And I think you'll see the Texas A&M offense as a whole kind of dictate terms to defenses when they play. And it won't be like, hey, we're taking away Evan Stewart. What are you going to do about it? I think Bobby Petrino will say, okay, well, we're scheming up different things to for sure get the ball to Evan Stewart. And that's how we're going to roll each and every Saturday. So I think it'll be a lot more definitive and a lot more of a complete identity when I look at what Texas A&M is going to be in 2023.
So you mentioned 46% running, that it isn't balanced. So what is balanced, 50-50 in your eyes, or you just want to have the bigger number on the run game?
Yeah, I think you just want to see a little bit bigger of a number, because I think if they were somewhere in the range of like even 48%, you say, okay, we're able to be a little bit more structured in how we're approaching this, because 46% tells me that they were just trying to get the ball out and about, out in space. And it also tells you probably didn't have what you needed on that offensive line to be able to be successful last year, or you weren't getting the looks, or whatever it comes down to. The offensive line wasn't getting it done. So you were probably in a lot of 3rd and long, 3rd and 7 to 10 kind of situations. So some of it's winning on 1st and 2nd down and being able to have that number higher. So I think ultimately what it's going to be is getting the ball to playmakers and setting up more favorable 2nd down, 3rd down. So we don't have to have a 3rd and long where we have to throw the football and put our quarterback in an unideal situation.
JD, one of the things that I took away from your video, too, is that you don't expect this offense to let things develop per se. Like, it's going to be quick. Like, Connor or Max, whoever it is going to have to make quicker decisions. Kind of explain that portion of it, of how quick you think it's going to move.
Yeah, I think when you look at Bobby Petrino's offense over the past couple of years, and really what he did at Missouri State last year was the power spread kind of offense, which, to put it most simply, in the spread offense, obviously you're spreading the receivers out and you're trying to create matchups. And so when you have matchups and you have one-on-one, typically those things kind of develop a little bit more quickly. Like, it's not going to be a lot of 5 steps, hitch up, kind of look downfield. It's catch the ball. He gets open because he has a matchup he likes. He wins it right away. We're getting the football to him. So a lot of that will be pre-snap. But I think, yeah, exactly to your point, they're trying to get the football out in space, quick, fast, in a hurry. They're not wanting it to be this big, long situation where it's like I just said, we have to go to our 1st, 2nd, 3rd read. It's we already know by the way that we're lining up, by nature of how we are putting the defense in a bind pre-snap, we're going to be able to get the football to who we want to get it to. And we know that before the play even starts. And so I think that's going to do wonders for Connor Wegman. And going back to the whole conversation around balance and the way that they want to attack the defense, like, it kind of goes hand in hand. If you get what you want pre-snap and you know what you're looking at as a quarterback, and you can have that 5-yard out route or whatever it ends up being, or you have that width hitch, whatever it ends up being, and you can make good on that, then you're lining up in 2nd and 5, and the picture looks a whole lot different than if you're lining up in 2nd and 10.
JD, a lot has been made, not a lot, but when people worry about the Petrino offense, they're like, but he didn't really do much at Missouri State that last year. Have you been able to watch any of that film and determine the why? Or is it, I think the year prior they were really, really good. So what have you seen on film?
Yeah, I think some of it, too, is what you were limited with at the quarterback position. They had a really good quarterback in terms of what he did with his legs. He wasn't always the most dynamic downfield. But, I mean, David, I looked at the game against Arkansas, and I saw the way that they were able to continually execute and continue to just set up favorable situations. It wasn't like a quick strike offense. And I think some of it too is Missouri State. The personnel you have there is going to be very different than somewhere at Texas A&M. So I think when you look at Bobby Petrino, I wouldn't be overly concerned about the most recent sample size. I would look more at the body of work and say, okay, what have we seen from this guy over the course of his career? I think the return there is for the most part pretty solid.
You referenced earlier the power read scheme. Kind of explain to us why that might be such a good option for Connor.
Yeah, I think I like the sense that it's going to. I guess there's two parts of it. We kind of explained that spread offense side of it, which I'm sure Texas A&M fans are familiar with. That's fairly basic in the broad philosophy. Not that it's a basic offense by any stretch. But the power part of it is kind of what I want to hone in on. Typically, when you are lining up in that spread offense, a lot of teams will run a zone scheme where the linemen are blocking an area more or less than they're blocking a man. And in a power run scheme, everybody has someone they're supposed to block to a man, not just an area. So especially in the power run game, you have your backside guard running around from the other side and blocking the front side linebacker. In most basic terms, they're trying to get north and south right away. Like we're not messing around. We're not waiting for things to develop. We're getting north and south right away. And so what that's going to do is over time, as you start to wear on a defense and you start to get 3 yards, turns into 6 yards in the third quarter, turns into 7 yards in the fourth quarter, a defense, I mean, that wears on them, especially if you're a safety. Bobby Petrino kind of mentioned this. You don't want to come up and fill the run, especially in third or fourth quarter where you got to tackle Ruben Owens, at 10 yards and it's, just not fun. You don't want to do that. You want to go play coverage. And so after a while, after that happens enough times, you start to cheat. And when I say cheat, I mean pre-snap. Maybe you were at 10 yards before if you're a safety. Maybe you start to sneak up and play in like that 7-8 yard range. Heck, maybe you get greedy, get to 6 yards. And when that happens, you have so many weapons on the outside for Texas A&M. It's going to make for a lot more explosive plays, which I know A&M fans are excited about because at that point, we just need one guy to win, whether it's Moose Muhammad, whether it's Anaya Smith, whether it's Evan Stewart. We just need somebody to win because that safety with him creeping up and getting greedy, there's a lot of real estate, a lot of green grass behind him for us to throw to. So I think you feel encouraged about Connor Wegman as a whole with just straight up his ability and what you got to see from him at the end of the year. But just the way that this is going to, I think, make for an easier picture for him and a more digestible offense. I think it's gonna pay dividends.
JD, I know you're not Nostradamus, but they scored 22 points last year a game with a very pedestrian offense. We'd be happy to see 30, 31 points a game after,
Sure.
how close those games were. But what is realistic? Like, can this team be a 35-plus point per game team?
I don't think it's unrealistic by any stretch. I think I probably would lean towards that like 30 points a game number just because it may take a second to totally formulate. I think if I'm a Texas A&M fan, I really focus on, hey, what do we look like in late October, November? Because at that point, nobody that's, a first-year guy, quote unquote, you're not a first-year guy anymore. Like Connor Wegman's going to be a first-year starter when it comes to game one, having the full 12 games to work with, even though we started games last year. By, game 9, you're no longer, considered a 1 year or first-year guy. So I think at that point, the excuse for how much have we gelled and how much is our feet set in this offense, I think you kind of take away that excuse a little bit. And so I think 30 points a game and hopefully 35-ish points a game towards the second half of their schedule is what you'd be looking at. Because, I mean, David, you know this as well as anybody, the talent and the horsepower at Texas A&M isn't the problem. Like there's a lot of different teams across the country that would trade their kicker, a personnel staff guy, and the head coach's left arm to be able to have some of the personnel they have in that skill position room at the wide receiver position, especially over at their school. And so, I mean, it's an embarrassment of riches. I think maximizing it is what's so appealing, what's so exciting about this spread power offense or power spread offense rather under Bobby Petrino. So I think it'll pay dividends. I think the second half of the year is really where I want to hone in on if I'm a Texas A&M fan.
Which is why that first half of the year is so important to take care of the games that you have to take care of. And Miami comes up, Arkansas, Auburn. Those are all games that I think A&M should win. Unfortunately, in years past, the should wins don't always happen.
Yeah. I mean, that's probably part of, what will be interesting about Connor Wegman being, I know it hasn't been announced just yet, but you're assuming he's going to end up being the guy for you at Texas A&M. So the first half of the year, how he adjusts, how he handles, kind of I don't want to say turbulent waters, but he's going to be walking into, like you mentioned, some pretty big time spots as his first year being the guy. So how he handles those and how this offense around him makes his job easier is something that I'm really watching for. Because in theory, David, it really should do that. Like, no knock against Jimbo Fisher. He's had a tremendous career and really made his name being an offensive football coach. But this scheme as a whole is supposed to be more simplistic, more digestible, and just letting players play, like feeding the studs, kind of taking the governor off of, okay, do I have this assignment? Do I have that assignment? And taking the complexities out of it. And that's not to say that it's simplistic in the sense that it's easy to defend, but I think you make it simplistic so you just let your talented players be talented. You don't saddle a wild horse. You go let them run.
One of the teams that I mentioned there that we were talking about is Auburn. They chose Peyton Thorne as their starter. No surprise there. He joined late, but I think he's got the most experience, and I was not impressed with Robbie Ashford. That being said, he was really good when he had Kenneth Walker III. How important is the running game for him in this new offense with Hugh Freeze?
Oh, it's huge. It's absolutely huge. I mean, to stay in that whole X's and O's vein, Auburn and Hugh Freeze are going to run that RPO scheme. And I mean, they've had, if you were listening to this show, you've probably had a million different color commentators explain to you the run pass option. So I won't do that. But essentially, Hugh Freeze wants to run the football. Like, in the majority of his offensive plays for Peyton Thorne, there's going to be the option to either hand it off or to throw it. And so if you're not getting any success running the football, and I think they expect to have success running the football, hopefully they have Jarquez Hunter. Sounds like they're really excited about Damari Alston and what he's going to be for them. But if you don't have success running the football, then if I'm a linebacker, I don't have to honor that pass game, or I don't have to honor that run game. Rather, I can kind of just sit back and force you to try and figure it out in the run game. So an enormous part for him, just as a basic building block of what they want to do in that offense, his job is going to be drastically made easier if they can get some push up front. So I think they will. But again, Peyton Thorne being the starting quarterback. And David, I don't know about you, but I was fascinated at the timing of this because Peyton Thorne missed all of spring. Right. He missed the most important 15 practices. So I think it speaks volumes to how quickly he got up to speed.
JD, last thing for you. I think you said it more eloquently than I, but I think we agree here. The Dion thing, and by the way, I'm kind of tired of the whole act, but whatever. His act is who he is. He wasn't encouraging fighting. He was encouraging brotherhood and being a team. And that's the part that spoke to me. Of course, there was a camera in his face when he was doing it because, of course, it's Dion. But that being said, it wasn't about the fight, right?
No, and I think some people, it was very interesting, David. I think a lot of people kind of exposed themselves the other day saying, he's encouraging fighting. That's bad for the game. He's going to get a kid hurt. It's like, okay, well, then you may not really have been paying attention to what's going on in Colorado and just the fact that they imported an entire new team through the transfer portal. And the other part that, that this happens in football, right? Like you don't see as much, footage of fights happening through, fall camp at the collegiate level because a lot of them are so closed off. We don't get any cameras. But I promise you, there's fights happening across the country. We heard about one at LSU, but the way that he handled that, like you said, David, I was really impressed by that, and I think it showed a sense of self-awareness and a sense of awareness within his football team that, hey, I do have a group of totally new guys, and we got to get on the same page. From an X's and O standpoint, we got to get everybody up to speed, but even more so, like, we got to be a team. It's cool that we brought Travis Hunter here. It's cool that we got Shedeur Sanders and Jimmy Horn Jr. We got all these guys that have a ton of talent, but like, if y'all are not a team and you're just talented individuals, like, we are going to get ourselves worked Saturday in and Saturday out. So, I mean, what kind of dividends that pays long-term, I don't know. But like you said, I think the fact that he was encouraging, hey, have your guys back when something goes on. I'm not asking you to go and just throw a right hook and put out our starting safety for the year, but I'm telling you to go be involved and have your boys back when something's going down at practice. So I think it's a very encouraging sign if you're watching what's going on for Coach Prime in Colorado.
That is JD PicKell there from On3. JD, great stuff, man. We'll do it here in a couple of weeks, all right?
Hey, almost time, David. Almost time for some real ball to be played. Appreciate you having me on.
Thank you, brother. Take care. All right, that's JD PicKell. Right now we're talking Milliken Reserve, a farm-to-table community in College Station. They got homes, they got trails, they got wide open spaces, and their mission is to build a healthy community around nature, and they've done that. They're dedicated to the conservation of a healthy community, respect for that native landscape, 2,600 acres of open space, farms, and 30 miles of trails and homes out there. It's a beautiful place to go hang out with your family. Go fly a kite. I think I flew a kite once in 1983, but outside of that, I really haven't done it. But maybe if I did it, I'd be a happier human. Well, you can do that at Milliken Reserve. You can jump rope, you can climb trees, you can throw the football, you can walk, you can hike, you can bike, you can canoe, you can do anything you want to do. out there at Milliken Reserve, and you're doing it in nature with your friends, with your family. Great place to connect. It is a place that provides a natural setting for people to connect and come together. The website is millikenreserve.com. Again, millikenreserve.com. Go check it out. I'm Mr. Country.
Are you?
Around Aggieland, presented by Normandy State Bank. Normandy State Bank, rock solid banking. Website, normandystatebank.com. You're busy. I'm busy. I want to do Around Aggieland, but you got things to do.
Okay, yeah, I just have to be other places, but it's okay. So we're going to get right into it. Okay.
A big show.
That's it. It's something that they can see next week, so it'll be an exciting
Have we
piece
said
of
what you're doing?
Me and Luke Evangelist will be starting our our renewed version of From the East Side of Kyle Field, our new podcast. We're going to get some exciting student guests on there, so make sure to check that out.
Rebooted.
But getting into our Aggieland just real fast, we're officially 15 days away from football season. And Anaya Smith was named to the Earl Campbell Tyler Rose Award preseason watch list, and then as well as McKinley Jackson was named to the Lombardi Award preseason watch list. So great stuff there. Soccer, unfortunately, dropped their match to Florida State last night, lost in the last 4 minutes, I believe. But hopefully they'll bounce back soon. They will play Washington State on August 20th. Volleyball, the Jamie Morrison era, is underway as they had their maroon and white scrimmage this past week. The maroon defeated the white, so of course always good to see Aggies doing good things. They will play their first game August 19th.
Bye. Welcome back into the program. TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Billy should be with us here momentarily. We'll get him on the line here in a moment. Do want to read a couple text messages coming in here on the program. The BCS Ag Quarterback Club starts next Thursday, 8/24, meeting at 6, dinner at 7 p.m. Jimbo speaks at the NBC Suites Hotel. $35 non-members, $30 members. That's from Brian there. So if you
David,
if
I could correct myself real quick. We were talking about Skip Bayless earlier. I got that wrong. I thought he was the one that did the thing about Dwayne Haskins, but it was actually Colin Cowherd. So that's my fault there. Knocking Skip Bayless a little bit too hard there. So again, my fault.
Not a good look. Not a good look. I think Colin's great, but you can't make that kind of mistake on a national show like that, right? You just can't. But it is what it is. Here's another one that came in. Marcel Reed's father's listening. Hey, Rod, thank you so much for listening or watching the show, however you take it in. We look forward to seeing Marcel play a little bit and getting to know his story. I know he's turning some heads there at camp.
Yeah, I was about to say, a few times we've gotten to go out, or at least I've gone out there. Marcel's look really good, so that's exciting for whenever he gets his chance.
Well, one of the things that I have heard about him on more than one occasion is how smart he is and how he processes information really well. So obviously when you're a young quarterback, that is one of the hardest parts of it, right, is processing information. So that is something for sure to follow. TexAgs Radio, if you want to text the show, you can do that at 979-693-1150. Let's go to the hotline. We are joined by Billy Liucci. Billy, executive editor, co-owner, joining us here on the show. Hey, buddy.
David, how are you?
I'm well, sir. You probably didn't hear the text that I read, but Marcel Reed's father's listening, and I know you've gotten some really good intel on the way Marcel's looked out there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, not just looked on the field, but just kind of the way he's fit in with the team in that QB room as a true freshman, and just a guy that one of the things that really jumps out at me, besides the leadership and character, gets rid of the ball quickly. But one of the real things is I've heard he's an absolute whip in film study. And in terms of just understanding the offense, just going to be a really high IQ quarterback, which is something, you think you might know when you're recruiting guys, but when they get in there and they get to the college level and they're still absorbing and retaining it, being able to spit it right back out and quickly grasp an offense like a Bobby Petrino, Jimbo Fisher offense, then you got something good in terms of football IQ at the quarterback position.
In that position overall, one of the things I know that you focused on recently, it's still a legit quarterback battle, contrary to what people are saying out there. Those guys are going back and forth, and Max has his good days, Connor has his good days. That's not to say that they're having bad days, just sometimes guys have better days.
Yeah, it's interesting, everybody wants updates, and they get updates, and then they get, you leave a name out, or you're not raving about somebody. And sometimes, and this is not the case at quarterback, sometimes I'm leaving guys out because they're banged up and they haven't practiced much, but it's nothing significant. But if you say that, then becomes the, oh my God, what's wrong? We're getting decimated at position X again. We're getting, just like at tight end, Jake's missed a few days here and there. Donovan had been banged up a little. Max had that toe thing Jimbo talked about. If I say all those things at once, everybody says, oh my God, rampant attrition. And I should worry less about what the reaction of people and just say it. But the other flip side of it is, when you talk about quarterbacks and the defense controlled, definitely got the better of a scrimmage, particularly the first team defense. And you say that it wasn't, Connor's best day or what, I think I got to go back and reread. I don't know if I said both. I don't think either quarterback lit up that first scrimmage, and that had way more to do with the defense and the front than it did quarterback play. But everybody took it and ran with it. It was really a way to say, hey, Max coming off the scrimmage had his 2 best days of camp and was really good. That's in no way a shot at Connor. That doesn't talk about, I think I've been pretty clear what I think about Connor and who I think will win the job, but I've also been clear that there's a battle going on, and it is not a foregone conclusion by any stretch. But it's funny because I love like Marcel's dad and like supportive parents on this team that are on TexAgs. Get to meet them all the time and see them, and it's wonderful. And I love it. Baseball, the baseball parents are like that. I know when I met Q's mom when she was here for senior day, she thanked us so much, or during the NIT, I think it was, she thanked us so much for the interview with him, and she listens all the time. Like, I love the parents that support their kids so much that they're on there every day. But there's also one of the things we deal with is you write a thing that someone even perceives as a negative, and you get not only the fans going, I mean, we saw things on there, David, like, oh my gosh, this is not what I want to hear about Connor. That wasn't at all what was said. In fact, I think 99% of what's been said about him since camp started has been pretty glowing, and because it should be. If that wasn't the case, I'd probably be a lot more quiet about it and more reserved and say, hey, it's work in progress. It's ongoing with the sophomore, like however you word it, or if Max had been taking all the first team reps, then we would have reported as such. It wasn't anything close to what we said, but then you get, people reporting back, and that goes back to the whole injury thing. You got parents on there and they say, oh, well, it sounds like my son got hurt at practice today. I didn't even know about it. So there's a lot of delicate, but one thing I won't do is dumb it down and it's a small group, but if subscribers aren't handling it well and not taking to it well, or if people are getting their feelings hurt that read it, I'm not dumbing it down. And I'll always say, if you've got a problem with any of it, contact me directly. Last I checked, I don't run from such conversations. So, anywho, that is these practice reports. It's unbelievable, the fallout every time we do one, and you can see it happen in real time on the message boards. And I'll be honest with you, and as the person doing it, I'd be lying if I said it didn't get frustrating and annoying. That's my way of saying shut the hell up. Right. And don't overreact. And you can overreact when the rest of your group on that board is overreacting. Because if the whole group reads things a certain way, then it's probably true. If you're an outlier and you're panicking, or you're trying to throw a player or multiple players under the bus, because when you do that, you did it with not only Connor, but it was also really disrespectful to Max, to think that he's not going to go out there and push and have some really good days out there on the practice field. I thought it was a double whammy there to both guys compete for that job.
Billy, I don't know if you had a chance to listen to J.D. PicKell kind of hypothesize? Or
Not yet. I'm planning to later. What do you say?
Well, he was really good. He was awesome. But he expects this to be a quick-moving offense where the pre-snap reads are going to determine how quickly Connor gets the ball out of his hands to feed those studs that we've heard so much about. Does that kind of match up with what you're hearing? Just a quicker vibe to the offense, not necessarily just because of timing, but getting the open guy the ball as quickly as you can.
Yeah, I do think there'll be a lot of that element. You know, not like we saw Johnny do. You know, I remember back in the day, I talked to whether it was Sumlin or Cliff or Johnny or the receivers, and it was, you know, you go back and watch that Bama game in Tuscaloosa, the win, and early in that game, a lot of what A&M did was if Ryan Swope had a cushion, the read was like 3 steps, stop, catch the football, pick up 5 or 6, if not more. And that was what they did a few times on some key downs there early. But I also think if you watch the LSU game last year, which I think we'd all agree was by far A&M's best offensive game of the season in terms of balance and just destroying an opposing defense kind of methodically and with big plays and with physicality, Connor came out getting rid of the ball quickly. They hit some slants. He was on time, on target. It wasn't quite like what we're talking about up there in Alabama that in 2012, but the scheme was, let's get the ball out of his hands quick, get it to some open receivers, stay ahead of the chains on early downs, and take some of the aggression out of this defense and get them on their heels a little. Maybe back these linebackers up where they can't just creep up and let Perkins and those guys just try to fly into the backfield and make plays. And that was what they did. So I could see more of that in terms of a philosophy this year. But I also think with Bobby Petrino, unless you've just not watched him, Wigman, Johnson, these receivers, they are going to take shots down the field in this offense. And they're going to take deep shots. And they're going to take them to Evan, to Moose, to Noah, probably to Jade Walker. And then Anais is going to be doing a hell of a lot of work between the hashes and underneath. So, and particularly, hopefully, in a lot of really unfavorable matchups for defenders. I think, yes, my answer to your question is yes and no, because I do think you're going to see more home run shots out of this offense than we've been used to seeing around here in a while. And of course, a lot of that will depend on the offensive line. And maybe it's more like the LSU game I talked about, where you keep them honest early, and then, you know, they back off a little so that pressure becomes less intense in terms of getting after the quarterback, and then you start taking deep shots as the game goes on.
Billy, the other thing I wanted to touch on that JD said, that he didn't think A&M was very balanced last year. He used the number 46% of the time they ran the ball. When he initially said that, I think, well, that's pretty balanced. But he's like, nah, a couple percentage points difference makes a big difference, especially a team that had a backfield with Devon Achane.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a numbers cruncher, so I don't know. I'll take his word for it on that one. But I didn't think they were that balanced anyway. You know, those numbers over the course of the year can get deceptive. I mean, how many times did they I'm thinking of games where they had to throw, you know, and they threw a ton against Bama, believe it or not. That number was surprisingly high when I went back and looked at it. But no, I mean, I think how much did they throw against App State? How much? I mean, were they balanced? I thought it was a fairly balanced offense, but I just don't think they were nearly as effective throwing football. So to me, I don't care if I would rather see Achane run it 38 times a game if his output was what it was against LSU. I would rather see A&M sling it all over the yard if Wigman can go for 400 and A&M can win and score, 38 points. And I don't, the whole balance thing, the numbers aren't what get me. It's can they do both effectively and efficiently, and can they do that over the course of the season? I know week to week it's sometimes going to change. How balanced was Ole Miss when they played here at Kyle Field last year?
Not very balanced.
How balanced was that attack? Did it matter?
Nope.
You know, and like I saw Ole Miss in other games where they did throw the ball better because they could, and because they weren't running like they were with Judkins that night here at Kyle Field, which A&M has to avenge in Oxford this year. So to me, like the balance thing, it's fun to look at during the off season. My question on balance is always, are they good at running the football? Are they good at throwing the football? And if the answer is yes, I don't care where the balance is week to week, unless there's some kind of anomaly outlier and you go out there and throw it, you know, throughout the entire first half and fall behind and lose a game without giving your running game a shot. Those are the things I think you take week to week. But over the course of the season, it's just, are they a good SEC team running the football? Are they a good SEC team throwing the football? And the answer to both of those this year needs to be yes. And to me, with what you've got coming back on the O-line, with what you've got at quarterback and receiver and in the backfield at the skill spot, and an offensive staff room that includes Jimbo Fisher, Bobby Petrino, Steve Adazio, James Coley, all those guys were either offensive coordinators and or head coaches. And then you throw in Jim Chaney, who's been an offensive coordinator, a big-time one, for about 25 years now or more. There's no reason to me they shouldn't be deadly effective at both running and throwing the football.
Billy Liucci on the phone. Do you want me to hit a break so you can come in the studio, or you want to keep going?
Yeah, I'm sitting and I'm looking at you.
Oh,
we got a tough engine revving truck going down George Bush right now. Those are probably if I had to say my worst people in the world would be tough engine revver driving down a road because you've got some ridiculously jacked up truck that makes a lot of noise. I think those people should do prison time.
All right. I'll hit a break. I'll get you here in studio in a second.
Later.
Later. Billy Liucci on the hotline. He'll be here in studio here momentarily. Right now we're talking Costa Vida. Holly Johnson is my friend. She's everybody at TexAgs fan. She's awesome. We love Holly. She's the owner. Her and her husband had this vision of teaming up and owning a restaurant and a business here in Aggie Land. They did that when they opened up Costa Vida a couple years back. Actually, like right during COVID. It was scary times. But that place is thriving. The food is amazing. It just tastes better. Baja-inspired Mexican restaurant. The ultimate fresh Mex made your way, exactly the way you love it. It is fresh and scratch made. So when you go there, they actually cook it for you while you're there. It's fast food, but it's not fast food. It's like semi-fast food. You're not waiting. It's there. Boom. They cook it. They get it ready for you, and it is delicious. You get the entree, the protein. You pick it. You choose your sauces, however you want it done. The signature dishes are the sweet pork quesadillas, or one of my favorites, the raspberry chipotle chicken salad, the shrimp taco, mango salsa. So many different things on the menu to get. And you can go in the morning. The morning is great to go. So you can get your breakfast tacos, you can get your coffee, and then you can just kind of read, scroll through your phone, read the newspaper, have a morning meeting. All can be done there. And, of course, obviously, you can go to Costa Vida the entire day. The food's awesome from morning to night. It is Costa Vida in South College Station. Delicious food. Go check them out. Owned and operated by an Aggie. That is Holly, of course. 4501 Mills Park Circle in College Station. Again, 4501 Mills Park Circle in South College Station is Costa Vida. It is TexAgs Radio. We are presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. We're here in the Rollo Insurance Studio. Billy is with us here in studio. It is time for 23 and 23, presented by the Charge Apparel, Aggie owned and operated Premier Polos and Tees. Hello. Made in the USA. 12% of total sales are donated to organizations supporting veterans and mental health initiatives. You can visit them at thechargeapparel.com or find them on Instagram at The Charge Apparel or Twitter, The Charge Brand. Did you get a haircut? Maybe I didn't notice.
Yeah, actually.
Looks
yeah,
good.
I did actually.
When was this? I don't remember. Got to be when you were out of
Wednesday.
town, right?
Wednesday.
Yeah, looks good.
Thanks. I'm in a hat. It looks better. It's looked better than this, but
number 6 on the list, Bryce Foster. Bryce Foster.
Yeah, I mean, one of the most talented football players in this program. I think one of the best football players on the field for A&M the last 2 years when he's been when he's been healthy. Obviously, he suffered that season-ending injury last year and was out with was mono, really affected his fall camp last year. Came back in. I heard you guys talking this morning about the track thing, and Olin said, well, if he loves football, just splitting time doesn't mean you don't love it. But I think for me, for Bryce, like, he's one of the best players on this team. He is a complete game changer on this offensive line. When he's in versus when he's not in, it is a massive difference. There are other guys that can play center here at a high level, I think at a higher level than what we saw last season. But Bryce is still the best. And when Bryce is your center and a guy like Mark Naboo can be available if need be at either guard spot, because he's ready to start. It's a matter of when, not if. So when he can be ready at either guard spot and center if need be, but if the need becomes available, and also to push the other guards, Layden and Cam and anybody else, Moko, anybody else in those spots, you automatically become a much better offensive line, not just in the 5 on the field on Saturdays, but also in what Steve Adazio can do in case of emergency in game. It frees up. I think Naboo is going to be an exceptional lineman, and Bryce's excellence in the middle allows you to have he's your top interior guy that's ready to go in a moment's notice and finish you a game, and also push the other guys to start. But Bryce, when he's out there, I think the way he played against Alabama and then to come back after a torn ACL, like, he's a warrior. But I don't know, like, because the track thing versus football, it's so much different, I think, especially as a thrower over there. And I think the grind of the camp, some people just embrace it. Some people are like, let's get to the season already. And I feel like Bryce is one of those dudes. Like, and when the season starts, he's out there kicking ass. And I remember last year, he dealt with the mono thing, and he came in with me for the first time, and he just seemed like he was, it just like, man, this thing, he said it to me on air, like, it's weighing, the whole thing weighs on him. He hadn't caught a break yet in terms of, like, just being able to exhale. And then all of a sudden they play Miami, and I think that was his first game. And they play, and he comes in here on Sunday with, I think it was him and Deuce and maybe one of the D linemen were leaving, and they were all sitting there talking ball. And he sounded to me like a guy that loves football. And he was really fired up, talking about the game, talking about the giant guy from Miami he was going up against the whole game and that. And then you heard him come in here and talk after when he was talking about Bama and how he's got that one circled. He really didn't like the way the fans booed him.
Right.
Why would you? I thought it was disgusting. And it's college football now. Fans boo when someone goes down. Common sense-wise, why is an A&M offensive player going to go down when they're going to get charged with a timeout if it goes wrong for them? Why are they booing the offensive guy for going down and quote-unquote faking an injury? But here's a guy that laid down with a torn ACL on the field in Bryant Denny, got booed, got up, finished the drive in the game, trying with everything in his being to win a football game, playing center, with a torn ACL. Now, that's a guy that loves football. He loves playing the game. We're getting close to that point in the year where, it's like, hey, they need him. Continuity's sake, he missed a few practices, and now he's back in there. And I think this is such a better offensive line and offense because Bryce, when he's on and playing and healthy, he is as good as any center in the conference and quite possibly the best. And we saw what it means to not have that last season. So he's one of those 5 stars where the ranking was right. He's a dominant force in there. He's a very smart football guy. And I think, with him in there, I think he helps Layden get better. He helps a young guy like Cam get better. It gives them more depth. But more than anything else, he is a dominant force blocking in the middle of that offensive line. That's why Seth and Steve can't stop talking about him and how good, when they come on, what a big deal he is, because they know the position, they watch it. And when you look at his game tape, particularly this past season, he's flat out dominant. And that to me is, if you're going to have a top, let's say 3 or 4 offensive line in the SEC this year, even like say a top 5 group where you say, hey, that's one of the better units in this league, much less if they really achieve their ceiling, it's going to be with Bryce Foster healthy and in the middle of that offense.
He might be the most, they say quarterback's the most important player out there, but he might be, if not 1A, 1B important players for this offense this year.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. When you think about where the depth is, and they've got a lot of it, and I just think if you're saying, here's the plays this guy can make, who can replicate those? I say plays, in this case blocks, skill position guys, plays. You don't want, there are a lot of injuries that would be, we'd sit here and go, man, that's a big time hit. But outside of quarterback, yeah, Bryce Foster is, I think, the most valuable guy that you have. Quarterback, it's obvious. I mean, even if you wanted to say, well, they've got 2 guys they can count on, it's still 2 to 1 changes. The alarms go off right there. So I mean, it's still quarterback. Behind that, I would say it's the guy snapping them the football. And by the way, that snap thing, don't take it for granted. We learned that last year. It might have cost him a game at South Carolina. Not to mention, I think, am I wrong, or did Bryce struggle with some? Yeah, Bryce struggled with
initially.
And Eric McCoy, early in his career, really struggled with snaps. I remember that Arkansas game, or early in the year, Eric struggled with snaps early on. It's not easy to do. So my point is, now you've got a veteran, a third-year starter. That's a whole nother element there. If you're talking about when you have Bryce versus when you don't, that type thing you don't even worry about. That just, you file that away in the back corner of your mind. You don't even think about it again when 61's out there.
Yeah. All right, let's do this. We'll hit a break. Got a couple other topics for you to get into. I don't know if you heard the first segment, but I'd like to get your take on who's going to be a household name at the end of the year. Like a name that we kind of know, but we're really going to know. So I'll ask you that when we come back.
Sounds good.
It's TexAgs Radio. Before we do that, let's talk Caldwell Country Chevrolet. Billy, where are they?
Caldwell.
Okay, sorry, I wasn't sure. They're on Highway 21 in Caldwell, online, CaldwellCountryChevrolet.com. You opened your mouth.
I was going to say, tremendous cars, availability, service after the sale. I'll probably be calling them this week. I've got a little issue, and they'll get it handled and taken care of, and they do it not only the right way, they do it in a hurry.
They do it in a hurry.
Tremendous service after the sale, which to me, when you get a car, it's the number one thing.
Complimentary pickup and delivery for service customers. That is a huge, huge thing that they do there. Small town dealer making dreams come true for the Brazos Valley. They've been doing it for a long, long time. A lot of TexAgers, including Billy and myself, have gotten our vehicles there. 15-minute drive, Brana Caldwell. A short conversation away, but you'll see the difference when you step on the lot and do business with our friends there at Caldwell Country Chevrolet. Highway 21 in Caldwell, online, CaldwellCountryChevrolet.com. TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Billy's with us. I'm David Nuño. Billy, I saw this article that caught my attention just because it was phrased the most valuable players in college football, right? And not necessarily the names that are on the list, but I was surprised who they had as number one. This is from 247. They had Drake May as the number one guy on this article, which I would still think is Caleb Williams. I mean, he's a chance to be back-to-back Heisman. As he goes, I guess as the defense goes, USC goes. But for the most part, he is the reason that they move on. But I was very surprised that Drake May was number one. I know he could be the first quarterback taken in the draft, but I don't know. I didn't expect to see him as the number one guy.
I mean, he had a hell of a year replacing, Sam Howell there, and you were losing this ballyhooed big name quarterback who, is he up there with the Redskins right now, trying to push to start?
Yeah,
Commanders. Did I say Redskins?
Yeah.
Sorry. So I think Drake May's pretty elite. It's always hard in that league Because I sit there and wonder what some of these other quarterbacks would do in that conference, and I get the NFL style, but I have a hard time when I look at Caleb Williams and what he does, seeing any list without him number one. What he's done.
He's
and
number
what he
3
does.
on the list. You know who number 2 is?
No.
I think you will be shocked.
What conference?
Pac-12.
Oh, is it Bo Nix?
Mm-hmm.
This is on what list?
247's most valuable players in college football.
Most valuable is different. It always changes things. It really does.
It does, because it doesn't mean best.
But I think you take Caleb Williams off of USC and watch what they do. Because I don't care that they got Bear Alexander or that they got the linebacker, Mason from Oklahoma State.
And Anthony.
And Anthony Lucas.
Defense should be better.
It's going to get better because they're just going to keep recruiting
Yep.
higher level players. They're going to NIL higher level players. I mean, it's what they're going to tamper and portal higher level players. That's what Lincoln Riley and USC, it's clearly what they do. And it's fine because nobody polices it anymore. So I think everyone should do whatever the hell you want. People got upset, I think some of the Longhorns, when I said that with a recruit, Texas A&M made a push and Texas came back and with on pretty good intel, they made a big NIL push. Yes, it's illegal directly for the coaches, but everybody knows that stuff goes on.
Yep.
And it's college football in 2023. That wasn't they get offended. Like, Texas fans will go after A&M for this $30 million class and NIL. A&M was doing stuff on the field prior to recruiting that class. Steve Sarkisian had done nothing as a head coach or at Texas. They went 5-7. They lost 6 in a row. They lost at home to Kansas. Unfortunately, very similar to A&M's season last year. It's very similar. You lost to App State at home. You lost 6 in a row. You went 5-7. They did the same thing and recruited a top 5 class after that. That wasn't based on his career history as a head coach. That was based on part of it because Texas, it's a great place to recruit to. Second, it had to do with the NIL machine ramping up, and it was legal, and it was perfect timing. But nobody wants to hear that. They think that's an insult when you say it. I don't mean it as an insult in 2023. It is what it is. You either step up in college football as a donor base, as a program, or you get left behind.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. That's what Nick Saban was saying the summer before. He just shouldn't have said things about A&M that weren't true, that he didn't understand. He could have left that out of it. He could have just said, hey, A&M's number one. This is new. There was a different way to word it. But he was trying to strike fear and elicit, hey, step up or we're going to get stepped on, is a summary. And that's everyone in the sport. So USC is doing a good job of pilfering and tampering. They're going to get better on defense. But if you took Caleb Williams out of that, I think USC, they're very pedestrian, very average. How good is Carolina going to be with or without May? I don't know. And I kind of agree with the Bo Nix thing. In the Pac-12, if either one of those teams with that QB could go undefeated in that conference, they could win the league and be in the college football playoff. Now, I think USC could be a title contender with Williams. I don't think Oregon can. But without those QBs, what is the fall off? I think each of those teams could lose, USC could lose 3 conference games. Oregon could be, they might lose to Tech without Bo Nix, and they might lose 4 conference games and be a 7-5 team.
It goes to fit, right? So Bo Nix was an afterthought towards his end of his run at Auburn. Goes there, and now people are mentioning him as a Heisman contender. Caleb Williams links up with the same guy he had at Oklahoma. He was good there. He's really good at USC. He's probably going to be really good this year.
I root for Drake May.
Yeah.
I root for the guy that didn't transfer. Now, I know Bo kind of needed to, and I think Bo Nix, there was some interest in A&M. I know there was. And you understand why, with his dad having played for Jimbo at Auburn, Patrick, you understand, but there wasn't a situation at the time. Now, in hindsight, you say, damn, Bo Nix would have been really good on this team last year.
Yeah.
But you didn't know that. But Nix found a good fit. He found a great fit. And I think I've never thought Bo Nix wasn't a really good quarterback. I think he was the least of Auburn's problems there. You know, like he was the least of their problems and concerns. Did I think he was one of the best in the SEC? No. Did I think he could be a problem for you on Saturdays, on the wrong Saturday? Yeah. I mean, we watched him with that crazy run against A&M up in Auburn that brought them back in it, and you know, he almost gutted them into, you know, winning that game in 2020. But luckily, A&M, like you said earlier, that ground and pound, stop the run the football. They wore him down on the Plains. But we watched him come in here as a true freshman and beat A&M. Was that? Yeah, that was his true freshman year. They came in here and beat the Aggies. Who was A&M's QB there? That was Kellen that day. Yeah, so that was 19. They came in here. So, yeah, I think Bo Nix was always good, and then he went and found a great fit. And let's be honest, he's also playing offense against much lesser defenses. Much lesser defenses in the Pac-12 than what he saw in the SEC. So I think it stands to reason that those numbers were going to fly.
Number 7 on the list, by the way, Cade Klubnik, who is often compared to Connor for obvious reasons, but number 7 on that list. And Clemson has very high aspirations this year.
Klubnik, to me, is like Connor. Okay? The guys in that class were Quinn Ewers, Connor, and Klubnik, right? Very interesting to chart those three because one of them is a Heisman contender this year. He's just been anointed because he throws a beautiful football. If you watch those guys throw against air, Quinn Ewers is the best throwing against air. Klubnik looks really good. Connor can spin it. But Quinn Ewers has a special arm. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like it's live, the ball, the accuracy. He's special in that regard. But I also watched him throw more picks than you'd like to see last year. People talk about how good he looked at the beginning against Alabama. I wonder if that sustained the whole game. He has a 5-star at tight end. He was thrown to multiple 5-stars at receiver. He's got a 5-star left tackle. He's got 5-star running back plus a second running back in the NFL. And then people will say, well, he hadn't played since high school. Well, he chose to skip his final year of high school. That was a choice he made for money, NIL, to go to Ohio State. He chose to skip that, then didn't play as a true freshman at Ohio State, which Klubnik did at Clemson. He was just as good as Ohio State, and where Connor did at A&M. So it's not like he gets a free pass for not playing at Ohio State. That was his choice to go up there with Stroud. That was his choice. He didn't, and he didn't play. He comes to Texas. No, he got hurt, and he came back and played hurt. Where was that for these Longhorn fans? Where's your same energy for Haynes King playing hurt basically his whole time at A&M? Where's your same energy when Connor Wigman gets knocked out? Just run over. I say knocked out, but just run over by the Ole Miss linebacker, comes back and throws a touchdown on the next play and finishes that game out. Where's that same energy for Johnny Manziel when he played virtually his entire second season here with a broken thumb, the shoulder after the Auburn game that was never right, and I want to say a knee. I think, yeah, definitely 100% going to say a knee, and a knee injury, and played that whole year. Are we showing that same energy? So, yeah, Quinn Ewers played banged up last year. So did almost every quarterback in college football. What do you think Bryce Young did? You think he just skipped the A&M game because he had a cough and came back and finished the year for the Crimson Tide and went on and played in the Sugar Bowl and won it? Everybody plays banged up, hurt. Max Johnson did it at LSU. Then he comes here, breaks a hand. A&M was, in theory, on their third QB. But all three of those guys will be intertwined. And this is not a hate Ewers account over here. I think the dude can ball. And I think that is the wild card this year, that if this Texas offense really gets going, it's going to be because of him and because he's special. Those other guys are really good, but I think Ewers is if you give him time and with the weapons and against that competition. So he's physically not going to take the beating he would in the SEC, and that's what they'll learn moving forward. That no matter how A&M went in there with Johnny Manziel, with multiple first-round O-linemen, I think 3 at a time for the first couple of years, and Johnny made a lot of things happen to avoid taking a beating. And then you saw other quarterbacks come in with first-round linemen at A&M, and they'd get hit and rocked around pretty good. It happens to everybody. Look at what A&M did to Bryce Young here last year. It's a different level when you get in here. But him and those weapons in the Big 12, they should thrive this season. But if you go back and look at last year, they can't score against Oak State in the second half. They can't reach the end zone offensively against TCU. Not once. Not at all. At home. TCU, last I checked, well, it's TCU. They got terrific defense. Last I checked, TCU gave up 100-plus points to Michigan and Georgia in the playoff. They get to the college football playoff, they're giving up 100. You couldn't cross the goal line at home. Washington shut your asses down. They keep talking about Ewers' yards in that game and stuff. I watched that game. Washington controlled you until they had a 2-score lead, and then Texas, started racking up yards and trying, they made it interesting at the end and lost by, I think, a touchdown.
27-20, I think.
They got smoked in that game, and the Washington defense was getting after them. Well, we didn't have Bijan or Roschon. Well, you're telling me how great
Quinn is.
the running backs this year are that were there. Like, well, he played with a hernia. Like, it's always something. Cade Klubnik, is he that valuable? I don't know Clemson's backup quarterback situation, but he looked really good there down the stretch at the end. They lost to Tennessee, right? Yep. That game, he looks good when he looks good, but there were stretches in that game where that Clemson offense didn't really impress me, and that was against Tennessee defense that didn't set the world on fire. Wigman, if I'm on the outside, I'm pointing out, well, what about against Auburn? On the inside, I'd say no HA, no Moose, no blocking. Unfortunately, I thought that was the offense's worst game. The other two SEC starts, he was pretty damn spectacular. He was pretty damn spectacular against Ole Miss, and that's almost a historic first start in the SEC for a true freshman if you go and break down those numbers. And then LSU, I thought he was brilliant. No interceptions, let your receivers make plays, massive throws in the second half there to get the distance and put the game away essentially, and then just some real key throws and scrambles early in that game. So this year, watch those three quarterbacks. I think it's going to be fascinating to see because Klubnik grew up in Aggie, and Ewers, you had a shot with the first time around, and then there was a second time around when he transferred from Ohio State, and there was a lot of communication between his camp and A&M because he wanted to come. And I think he also wanted to go to Texas and wanted to go to Tech. I'm not saying they had him. I think they were letting people hear what they wanted to hear. But those three are going to be intertwined. And I think the one that everyone's sleeping on is number 15. Yeah. It really do. And that goes into the next question you're going to ask me when we come back, and it's him.
That is a great tease, Billy. That's Billy Liucci. We'll come back with more. It's TexAgs. TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Roller Insurance Studio. David Nuño here with Billy Liucci, one final segment. Do want to close out the show with the topic we started off the show with. Who's going to be a household name? And, we know the name, especially people who listen to the show, everybody's talked about. But maybe beyond Aggieland, a name on this roster. It could be a first-year player. It could be a transfer. It could be somebody who's just been waiting for his opportunity, that by midseason, end of the year, that is a household name. I'll tell you some of the names that I mentioned early, and they're not groundbreaking, but I think Chase Masantis could be that name. Reuben Owens could absolutely be that name, but there are others.
You talking about on down the road or this season?
This season. At some point, there's that guy.
Household name amongst Aggies or around the SEC?
We'll start here.
College football.
We'll start here and then exploding
Well,
to
I think Aggies, if you're talking about guys that people aren't talking about a lot that we could be as the season progresses, I think you're talking about guys like you mentioned the freshman that could have a chance to start. I would say Javon Thomas at corner would be a guy. There's real competition there. I would say also, I think DeBerry. I think there's a good chance that one of those two guys could start at corner, which would make them really well known amongst Aggie fans. And they're not getting a lot of buzz today right now. I would say, I'm thinking D-line. We talk about those D linemen a lot.
Do we talk about
I think
Hicks?
Torian York possibly at linebacker. I think DJ Hicks could be later, but that's a position of real depth.
Yeah.
And I think he'll play in significant amount of reps this season. I think he'll be a guy that as the season goes on plays more and more. But I'm just thinking of, you're saying like that people aren't. Dalton Brooks. Well, here's one that Jordan Gilbert.
Okay.
Third-year guy, and he's still got a great shot to start this year at safety alongside Damani. A great shot. I mean, I can believe it'll be him or Jacoby Matthews, and Jordan's had a good camp. So I think
Theo, maybe?
Well, see, I think we talk about Theo a lot.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I would put him – now transitioning to SEC-wide, I think Jake Johnson.
Yeah.
I think Jake is a guy that, because of the injury to Donovan, has a real opportunity. He's had a year under his belt to learn. He knows what he's doing out there. Physically, he's a 10. I mean, physically, he's got everything you need. He can catch the football. He's dangerous. I think he's probably – toughest route runner they got at the position, and he's gotten better in the terms of the blocking. So I think if Jake Johnson's healthy, I think he can be kind of an emerging young tight end in this conference that people talk about, because he'll get the targets with Donovan. You know, they were going to otherwise probably share those, and Donovan was very experienced coming back. So I think Jake is one guy that can really take advantage of an opportunity here. Conference-wide, any of those young D linemen that are ready to emerge, but I'm going to pick a name out and say Shamar Turner.
Okay.
It's a guy that I keep hearing about. Both Shamars have had good camps. So, Bryce Anderson. Now, nationally, and Noah Thomas. That would be my group of conference. Nationally, I think there's two that really jump out, and it's Wigman and Stewart.
Okay.
Like, conference, SEC know about them. But those two guys could be national if they get that connection going.
Thank you, Billy.
All right.
Thank you, Nick Savage. Thank you to Kennedy Cavan, Olin Buchanan, Sean Murphy there at the Mothership. We will see you guys on Monday.